Hey, everyone. If you enjoy my audiobooks, you can also support me by becoming a Patreon member. Your support helps me keep creating, and you'll get exclusive perks. Check out the link in the description to join.
Still no reply from that guy? Why yes, Sirwave sent numerous messages, but he is still yet to respond. Raoul was irritated. The reason for that was Luke, the older brother that he had already presumed dead. According to the rumors being spread in the territory, Luke has built a magnificent city in a wasteland. In order to ascertain the truth, an order to investigate was given to the governor nearest to that wasteland. That governor had sent a report that denied any authenticity to that rumor. However, instead of the rumor dying down due to its falsehood, it has only gotten more widespread as time passed. This was certainly odd, so another investigation was requested. But unlike before, the governor in question hasn't made any response whatsoever, even after repeated requests. Given this lack of cooperation, I think it's possible that Governor Dant has defected to Luke Sama's side. Tskhes a mere governor, how dare he defy me? Further amplifying Raoul's anger was the fact that, even at this point, they still couldn't tell how true the rumors were, if at all. After all, each and every person they themselves sent to investigate has failed to return. Funnily enough, the only report they have is the one from Governor Dant. Maybe the rumors are true, especially the parts about the city having delicious food and comfortable homes, and that's why none of our teams have returned. Preposterous? That wasteland's so barren, it's impossible to grow even a single crop. Plus, it's surrounded by monster-infested areas, and even if they can somehow solve those things, how can he build a city like that in just a year? Raoul barked so toward his retainer. At that moment though, a man Raoul didn't know entered the room. Horyu, I'm busy right now, so you better not be here for something trivial. Our Raoul Samathi's man is a subordinate of Governor Dant. What? The man apparently has come to report to Raoul about Governor Dant's treachery. I'm risking my life to be here if I get found out. I don't know what fate will befall me even so, I've decided to risk it all for you, our Raoul Sama. Your plight is of no interest to me. Now, do you have something for me about your master's treachery or not? I do. Here, sir. The document that the man produced supposedly contained Governor Dant's information about the so-called city in the wasteland. Upon looking it over though, Raoul concluded that the things written there were just too unbelievable for Raoul. 2 layers of walls, each one better than those in the royal capital, a population of at least 10,000, a dungeon. What is this nonsense? You have the gall to show me this nonsense? It's not nonsense. If it was, the governor wouldn't have bothered keeping it safe within his room, right? Raoul still thought that the document was unbelievable, but he also couldn't help but feel anxious. If this is somehow true, send a team to the wasteland again, but this time, have them pose as immigrants. Why yes sir, and if the chance presents itself once they're inside, tell them to kill that Luke bastard. It's really there. But what's with those walls? Wasn't this place supposed to be built just a year ago or something? Yeah, this road's odd as well. Something like this should take several years to build, right at Novel bin at. While advancing through the road in the wasteland, a certain group was wildly baffled. The group was initially half convinced that their mission was a fool's errand. And so, as soon as they saw the city, they were so shocked that they have forgotten about their objectives. That Luke Sama built this? So that governor's report wasn't true, after all. How could they have hidden a city like these? We should go tell Raoul Sama right away. Yes, this group was an investigation team dispatched by Raoul. I'll gather more information about that city. You guys go ahead and return to the capital to report to Raoul Sama. So said the veteran spy to his subordinates. He had infiltrated a countless number of places before, and obtained valuable intelligence. It could be said that he has contributed a lot to the rapid rise of the Albert House. And from time to time, he also did assassinations. It seems like I'll have to dirty my hands this time as well. The other members of the investigation team had no idea of this objective, as only the veteran spy was given this instruction directly by Raoul. However, before the others could leave, the ground they were standing on all of a sudden just vanished. Raoul has dispatched a team to investigate the wasteland. The team was able to confirm the existence of the city in the wasteland, and has decided to split up into 2 groups. Majority of the team was to go back and report to Raoul, while the rest was to go infiltrate the city and obtain more information like its layout and its war potential. Please take care. Haha, who do you think you're talking to? I've been in far more dangerous places than this so many times. They exchanged wishes of good luck like that and began to part ways. However, right at that moment, the ground they stood on suddenly vanished. Not understanding what was going on, all they could do was scream as they fell down the hole. Ouch. Somewhat fortunately, they didn't drop down too far, so none of them were injured seriously. Even so, the suddenness of it all shook them, visibly so. It took them quite a bit of time before they began making sense of their situation. Where are we? Isn't this a jail? Somehow, they ended up in a jail cell. They were surrounded by 3 sides of stone walls and 1 side of iron bars. When they peeked beyond the iron bars that sealed them within, they saw an unbending underground passage that seemed to stretch on infinitely. It might not be the best time for it, but they couldn't help but notice how splendid the underground path was. It was probably the best they had ever seen. Suddenly falling down a hole, finding themselves trapped within a jail cell, and gazing upon the underground path, it was truly a bizarre situation they landed themselves in. Yet, things only continued to get more bizarre. Zoo. Is the cell moving? What the hell's happening here? At novel bin at. The series of events have overwhelmed and paralyzed the team. Before long, the cell stopped moving. Just when the team thought they could breathe at last, another source of dread showed up. Welcome everyone. An old woman who laughed menacingly approached the cell. She was small and seemed frail, but for some reason, a chill ran down everyone's spine. Who are you? What are you going to do to us? Before I tell you that, how about yous tell me why you've come here? Hi. Even the veteran spy in the group was convinced that this wrinkled old woman with a sadistic laugh was dangerous. A certain group has come to our village. They look to be immigrants at first glance, but my intruder detection skill has determined that they posed a threat to the village. After I was made aware of them by intruder detection, I constructed an underground tunnel that stretched until it was right below them. In that spot, I then constructed a jail cell. Next, through facility customization, I made a hole that would drop the group into the now ceilingless cell. Like that, we have successfully captured them. After that, I used reposition to move the cell deep into the village. Thanks to Granny, we were able to find out that the group was an investigation team sent by Raoul. As expected, they were Raoul-sama's henchmen. Milia said so in a cold tone. Yeah, but is it really alright for us to go this far? What are you saying, Luke-sama? According to the information Granny Nima got, there's someone among them who was ordered to assassinate you. Yeah, I for one have no intention of going easy on them, Milia replied first, and Selin next. When they put it like that, it was hard to disagree. I still don't want to be in a fight with Raoul though. That rumors. There really is a city in this wasteland. A merchant group looking for a new land was overwhelmed by the splendid walls that cut across the wasteland. Maybe the other rumors about it are also true. Like, I heard there's almost no regulations in the city, but at the same time, there's not a single company that has a monopoly in the market. I also heard they're lending us shops, free of charge. It almost sounds like a paradise for merchants like us. Hey newcomer, you're really lucky, you know? You don't know how much we had to endure because of greedy fees and taxes. The one being called a newcomer was a lad of 18 years old who didn't have any noteworthy physical features. His name was Rain. As a novice merchant who has joined the merchant group just a few days ago, he was still undergoing the basic training for being a merchant. At any rate, the group was now in front of the city. In the other cities they have been in, they were charged a fee just for entry. However, this one didn't charge a single coin. The merchants cheerfully talked about how this move of allowing people to enter and exit without any fees would help the city's economy in the long run, and of course about how wonderful the city was. Meanwhile, Rain was terrified for some reason. Purpose of your visit? There wasn't any entry fee, but people entering the city were still being inspected for the sake of security. And because the merchant group has come to the city purely to trade, they didn't particularly mind. Except for Rain. It's alright, everything's going to be alright, I am a novice merchant, just a novice merchant, there's nothing suspicious about me. In truth, his family served as retainers to the Albert house. Recently, Raoul Albert has sent investigation teams one after another to confirm the rumors about the city in the wasteland, but for some reason, not a single person has managed to come back. That was when Rain's father devised a plan, to have Rain disguise himself as a novice merchant and blend in with a merchant group that was headed toward the city in the wasteland. The problem was, Rain was a novice not only in being a merchant but also in being an intelligence officer. Naturally, he asked his father to reconsider, saying that it was impossible for a novice like him to pull it off by himself. However, his father insisted that his inexperience should actually make him less suspicious. Rain's family was at the bottom of the hierarchy among the Albert retainers. So, in hopes of getting promoted, they would take every opportunity there was, even the risky ones. Rain was the third son anyway, so even if this scheme failed, their family wouldn't be offset by much. As such, Rain had little choice but to obey. Fortunately for him, he managed to join this merchant group and has established himself as a new merchant. But the previous investigation teams also tried to blend in with merchants, didn't they? No, I'm sure the plan's alright, it's just that they must have screwed up somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure of it. I should focus more on being a merchant and put gathering intelligence in the second or third priority as long as I'm careful like that. Lad, are you okay over there? You look so pale at novel bin at. I'm okay, nothing to worry about. Just tired from the journey, is all. Rain hurriedly gave a reply to a guard that was conducting the inspection at the gates. Oh no, is he suspecting me now? Alright. We have a public bathhouse in this village, that might help you get better right away. Thank you for the recommendation. His worries proved to be unnecessary. After the inspection was done, they were allowed to pass the gate and into the city. At that point, Rain breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, now that I'm in, there shouldn't be anything to worry about for a while. But man, what a beautiful city this is. After passing through an area that was full of fields and then through another gate, they saw a great crowd of people. For a moment, they forgot that they were still in the wasteland. Shortly after entering the second gate though, a boy approached the group with a smile. He headed straight for Rain. Hello there. Are you a merchant? Do you need something? As you might be able to tell, I'm new. So maybe it'll be better if you talk to one of my seniors instead. Rain wondered why the boy approached him even though he clearly looked unable to help. And then, still smiling, the boy introduced himself. I'm Luke Albert, the chief of this village. Luke say my I am Luke Albert, the chief of this village. The boy introduced himself and the other merchants began to murmur among themselves. However, the one most shocked was the novice intelligence officer named Rain. Luke say my Even though he was a retainer of the Albert house, Rain has personally seen Luke only a few times before. Each of those instances were from afar too, so he didn't really know what Luke looked like up close. Luke should have no knowledge of him either, or so Rain thought at novel bin at. Excuse me, but I'd like us to talk for a bit. What's he want to talk about? Cold sweat ran through Rain's whole body. None of the previous teams have returned, and if the rumors he heard were to be believed, they suffered a fate worse than death. Shit, am I gonna be caught like them too? What's the matter here? I'm Seth, the leader of this group. You can talk to me instead of the newcomer. Right when Rain began screaming internally, Seth made his way to join the conversation. Ah, the leader cares even for a newcomer like me. Please, go tell Luke-sama I'm not anyone suspicious. Please, please, please. No, I'd prefer to talk to him for now. Of course, I'd compensate you for the work he'll be missing. How about this to start with? Oh yes, go and take your time with your talk. Have I just been sold out? In the end, Rain was pulled out of the merchant group. Before he knew it, brawny men were by their side, making escape impossible. It's over, it's all over. The place he was brought to was an estate. There, Rain was made to sit in a chair while multiple people surrounded him. Yorin-san, right? How does he know my name? To not only recognize him, a bottom-ranking retainer, but also remember his name, Rain became terrified of Luke. So, mind telling me everything? Instead of pressuring him to spill information, Rain was asked kindly. Rain wasn't so weak-willed that he would confess right away, especially when his entire family's future depended on this mission. After a few moments of silence, a petite old woman appeared before Rain. Ahihihi, if you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk. Just look forward to having fun till you drop, okay? Hi, wait, ill talk. Rain went with what every instinct in his body was saying, yield right away to the frightening old lady. Rain spilled it all. However, based on his captor's reactions, what he said wasn't anything new, which made sense to him, since the other teams must have been captured and interrogated as well. So hate will happen to me now? Let's see. Well, obviously, we can't let you go back anytime soon. Like I thought, they're going to work me to death or maybe be experimented on by that scary old woman. She really looked like she enjoyed tormenting others. Filled with despair, Rain was brought to a mysterious box-shaped building. He was escorted there by several guards. Each one looked intimidating, so Rain couldn't help but be even more worried of what would become of him. For the moment, you'll be living here. Go ask the others who moved in before you for details. Oh okay, by the way, you do realize that there's no use in trying to escape, right? We will find and capture you right away, after all. But then again, soon enough, you won't even be thinking of escaping this place. Because it'll become so broken, I won't be able to form thoughts anymore. Rain shivered with dread once more as he entered the building. What awaited him inside was, much to his surprise, a pretty entrance. Oh, are you new? Wait, you're alone? The one to greet him in a friendly manner was a rather plump man. The man had a big smile, as though he was happy about something. Sorry, you are? Call me Hans. I'm like you, sent here to investigate but was captured instead. Rain could hardly believe the man's unexpected reply. I guess you can say this is where all of us are being put to house arrest. Are we forced to work to death every day? Ha ha ha. We do work, but not to our deaths. In fact, we only work 8 hours a day, and 2 days off every week. Plus, we get 3 meals a day every day. Then, are we being used for human experimentation by that old woman? Human experimentation? What are you on about? But well, that old lady does love torturing people. That said, as long as you give her information, you're safe. Not only safe, actually. Have you been told that our apartment units, that's what they call our lodgings, our apartment units have beds and its own baths? I dare say, life here is more comfortable than in the capital. The man didn't seem to be lying. If he was, there would be no way his skin would be this glossy and his body this plump. The man was healthy, too healthy in fact. Luke-sama is a wonderful person. Normally, our captors would make our lives a living hell even after we give them the information they want. But here, we're treated as guests. What's more, Luke-sama's expressed concern for our families back in the capital. Genuine concern, not just veiled threats. Even to me, someone who was tasked to assassinate him. Can you imagine that? Hall. To be frank, he's completely unlike Lord Albert and Raoul-sama, who treat us as mere tools. Well, nobles have been treating us like that since the beginning. I guess it's more accurate to say that Luke-sama's just the exception. Given the choice, I'd rather not go back to the capital anymore, you know. Man, I sure hope Luke-sama can win against Raoul-sama. Rain was at a loss of words at Hansa's almost treasonous remarks. At the same time though, he felt refreshed. It was as though he had some pent-up resentment that he wasn't aware of until now. Can this city be paradise? It did not take him long before he enjoyed his life in the village from the bottom of his heart. It has been 3 months now since the Albert house won against the Schnegger house and Raoul returned to the capital. He has sent numerous investigation teams to the wasteland, yet not one of them, not even a single person has returned. The governor of the north still hasn't responded as well. In the end, their side settled on capturing merchants who had been to the city and interrogating said merchants. The information they got was consistent with the report they got from the governor's subordinate. As absurd as the report was, it now seemed to be factual. Apparently, Luke has indeed built a city in the wasteland from scratch and has developed it to the point that it now has a population of 10,000. All of this in just under 2 years. Luke, how are you still alive? Are you going to get in my way yet again? While glaring northward, Raoul shouted so. After a while of ruminating, he came to a decision. Assemble the soldiers. Sir, but the other party's your older brother. This is a very pivotal moment for the Albert house right now. Should now really be the time for sibling rivalry? A retainer tried to advise Raoul to reconsider, but he didn't want to hear any of it. Silence? That bastard's been amassing war potential in hopes of getting revenge for being exiled. He is planning a rebellion against the Albert house? That is not something I can ignore, brother or not. With such a pretext, Raoul's retainers couldn't object anymore. And then, he announced how many soldiers to prepare. 5,000? Assemble 5,000 soldiers. I'll be leading it, of course. 5,000. At present, at least half of the Albert forces were stationed in the former Schnegger territory. Moreover, due to many factors including fatigue, assembling a large number of soldiers right after a great war was quite difficult. But didn't the reports say that their city has a population of at most 10,000? 1,000 soldiers should be more than enough, shouldn't it? Stop protesting and get me those soldiers. Go, before I decide to kill you. Why yes, sir. After half a month of sleepless nights, Raoul's retainers finally managed to assemble the 5,000 soldiers that he asked for. Before heading to the wasteland, the army stopped by Riesen, the city that the North's governor lived in. It was a good place for them to resupply and rest a bit, but of course, that wasn't the only reason they stopped by. Governor Dant has submitted to me false reports about the rebel Luke, making him a criminal. Arrest and bring him to me at once. After being given that order, the soldiers rushed into Riesen. They were prepared for a fight, but to their surprise, the gates opened right away. When they broke into the governor's estate, they noticed something strange. It's completely empty. They somehow sensed that Raoul and his forces were coming, and fled. See, could they have gone to the city in the wasteland? Don't they realize they've only made it worse for themselves? The governor being executed was a given and unavoidable, but at least it was possible that only he would be punished. Everyone in their clan fleeing the city made that impossible now. I'll make sure he and everyone close to him, down to their descendants, will regret this. What's the matter, Dant Sama? At novel bin at. And nothing. I just felt a chill run down my spine. Now that I think about it, Raoul Sama should have arrived in Riesen by now. We must be fuming right now at my betrayal. After knowing about Raoul Sama leading soldiers toward the north, I took my clan and escaped toward the Luke Sama's village. However, is this really the best move? If the village falls, then you and your house will also. I've prepared myself for that. But more than I am resolved for such a fate, I believe in Luke Sama and his village. According to the report I got, Raoul Sama was leading an army of 5,000 soldiers. The village had a population of about 10,000, but even in a defensive battle, it would be in a terrible disadvantage against such an elite army. Well, if it was a normal village, I believed that Luke Sama and his village would prevail in the end. Luke Sama has surpassed our expectations many times now and with great ease, so surely, he will overcome this adversity as well. I can't help Governor Dant came to the village, along with a great number of people. Is something going on? Yes, I'm afraid I have terrible news. That which I fear has come to pass. Which is, Raoul Sama is coming to this villagetto attack it. He has departed the capital with an army of 5,000 soldiers. Raoul's what? I know Raoul dislikes me, but surely, it's not to the point that he'll attack me with that many soldiers, right? I wanted to believe that he had another goal in mind, but the fact of the matter was that he was heading straight here. But how did he gather so many soldiers? The war just concluded, so won't the people protest or something? Especially when there's nothing that will justify it enough. By spreading misinformation about you, mainly saying that you're amassing an army here in the wasteland so that you can rebel against the Albert house. I see. According to Dant-san, Raoul's army should arrive in 5 days or so. I've decided that I and my clan should leave Riesen behind and come here. Huh? But if Raoul's coming to attack us, you'll get caught in between, won't you? I've braced myself for that. Moreover, I'm not entirely safe even in Riesen. Raoul Sama will certainly come to arrest me for sending him false reports. So, if I'm in harm's way either way, I would rather be here and help you however much I can. Dant-san then looked toward the soldiers he brought with him. Were not much compared to those in the village, but if you'll have us, well, fight by your side. Bazura-san, who has always accompanied Dant-san, declared so and then struck his chest. Is it just me or does he seem a bit desperate right now? Raoul Sama's marching here with 5,000 soldiers? Q quickly, tender your surrender at once. You don't stand a chance? The one to make such an appeal in a flustered manner was Silius Gun, Salon's younger brother. Silius Gun came to the village to take his sister back home, but for some reason, he ended settling here instead. Is their home going to be alright? In the war against the Schnegger house, Raoul Sama was initially assigned only a few hundred soldiers, yet he still managed to take a major city with those troops. If he really has 5,000 soldiers now, this village might not even last half a day. You should start heading home then. Wah. Silius Gunn was rendered speechless by Cylon's advice. Surrendering won't make Raoul spare Luke. And since we absolutely can't let Luke be harmed, we have little choice here than to fight. Of course, there's no reason to involve yourself in this. So, why don't you just pack your things and go back home? I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. How can I leave you here and escape by myself moreover? Silius Gunn stopped talking and then turned his line of sight toward Phileas Ann. What is it? Is something on my face? No, there's nothing. Don't mind me. With a bright red face, Silius Gunn got out of the room. Does Silius have ice that why he decided to live here? And then, I heard an out-of-place cheery sound in my head. Ta-ta-ta-ta, congratulations, because you now have more than 10,000 villagers, your village has become level 8, at novel bin at. 100,000 village points have been acquired as level up bonus. You can now build more kinds of facilities. Maximum village area has been increased. The village skill villager enhancement has been acquired. Thanks to Dan-san and his group joining the village, we finally, officially breached the 10,000 mark. A fight against Raoul seemed unavoidable at this point, so a village level up was definitely appreciated. Raoul's troops have reached the wasteland. The sun has fallen when they did, so they decided to camp for the night and prepare themselves for the next day's battle. Our scouts have returned and confirms that there indeed is a city with great walls. According to their estimates, the walls are more than 5 meters tall. They say it's quite thick as well. His gift's supposed to be village building. How on earth can that possibly be just a village? After hearing that report, Raoul yelled so in frustration. But whatever. With 5,000 soldiers and experience in my side, I'll fall in no time. Raoul has taken several cities in the war against the Schnegger house. Luke's city might have better walls than those cities, but if the soldiers defending it weren't at least decent, Raoul would have an easier time taking his brother's city. They're just a mishmash of refugees and immigrants. There's no way they'd have a decent army to defend the Sitaikikiko. By now they should have heard of the number of my troops. By now they should be shivering in fear. To those around Raoul, it seemed obvious that the 5,000 soldiers would end up being overkill, but none of them dared to say that out loud. But then again, overkill was exactly what Raoul was going for. He had no intention of forcing a surrender or prolonging the fight. What he wanted was a direct and swift invasion in order to capture Luke. At that time, "Heya, Raoul. It's been a while." All of a sudden, Raoul heard a voice he recognized but shouldn't be there. So, for a moment, Raoul thought he was hallucinating. It's been a year and a half, hasn't it? Unlike me, you seem to have gotten taller, boy. I'm quite envious at novel bin at. That voice belonged to Luke, the one who Raoul has branded a rebel. Luke, what are you doing here? Raoul was surrounded by all of his 5,000 soldiers. It should have been impossible for Luke to get this close to him, at least without alerting his soldiers. Yet, here Luke was, all nonchalant. In contrast, the retainers near Raoul were so dumbfounded, they were unable to move an inch. I'm here to talk. Talk? Yes. Are you really going to attack my village? I see. So, in hopes of protecting your village, your city, you've come to surrender yourself, is that it? Setting aside the question of how Luke got this close for now, Raoul grunted and guessed Luke's goal. No. What do you mean no? I'm here more to say that this'll be a meaningless fight. You might have heard that I've assembled an army to rebel against the Albert House, but there's just no truth to that. Moreover, I have no desire of becoming the successor to the Albert House. After all, my life here in the village is more than enough for me. Sighs of relief came from Raoul's retainers after hearing Luke's statement. Deep down, they knew that this fight didn't have a good enough justification. However, as though to not allow such thoughts, Raoul shouted in anger. Silence? I will not be fooled. You're only saying that to avoid getting crushed. How can there be such an unambitious man in this world? I'm telling the truth though. As though stumped, Luke scratched his head. For someone who was alone behind enemy lines, he was acting so casual. I guess this means a breakdown in negotiations. I didn't expect much, but still let's see. I guess should take my leave now, right? The soldiers have become aware of an intruder's presence. Raoul was talking to the intruder, so they initially were confused on what exactly they should do, but they quickly proceeded to surround the area and be on standby. Like that, all exit points should have been blocked, but when Luke turned around and ran, no one could believe it. Luke vanished. The soldiers hurriedly searched the place, but they couldn't find a single trace. He's gone. How? Search for him? He should still be around here? But no matter how much they searched the campground, they were unable to find Luke. After I descended the stairs that led to the underground tunnel, I immediately deleted the said stairs. Like this, no one should be able to follow after me. Geez, you're such a risk taker. You really shouldn't have gone behind enemy lines by yourself. At novel bin at. Sorry. But being alone's probably the only way I can talk to him without making him be on guard. Plus, if you came with me, there'll be some complications with the Bazureta house, right? As soon as she saw me, Sullen, who was waiting in the tunnel, expressed her annoyance once more. I intended to negotiate with Raoul all by myself. The area where his army has camped was part of the territory under my control, hence how I was able to build the underground tunnel. Given that, escaping was simple, and I could even fight with a golem if ever I needed to buy some time. However, Selen thought that it was still too dangerous for me to go alone and insisted on coming along. Her waiting for me in the tunnel was the compromise we had. So, how did it go? Not great. I was able to talk with him, but he refused to believe anything I said. I thought as much. At this point, a fight with Raoul and his army was pretty much inevitable. Still, he has 5,000 soldiers at his command. Without a doubt, we are facing a threat far greater than the one the orc horde posed. Yeah, but I might have something to help. You have a strategy? I don't think it qualifies as a strategy, but yeah. The next morning, Raoul's army resumed their march on the wasteland. But is there really a city here that warrants these many soldiers? I mean, look at this wasteland. Really not feeling this. We just got back from a war, too. Hope this ends quickly so I can finally take a break. The soldiers' morale wasn't great. Being drafted all of a sudden was bad enough, but then they find out that they were drafted this time for a fight between members of the Albert house. Even if their side wins, it wouldn't benefit them that much. In fact, whichever brother won wouldn't change things too much for them. Given that, it was no wonder that their motivation to fight was so low. Oi, did you hear about last night? Apparently, Luke Sama popped out of nowhere in the center of the camp. Our camp? Seriously? Why though? To surrender? No, can't be it. We wouldn't be still marching if it was. Yeah, but you know what's more bizarre? I heard that right after talking to Raoul Sama, Luke Sama vanished all of a sudden. Like a ghost or something. What? You sure they weren't just imagining it? Knowledge of the enemy being able to reach their supposedly well-guarded leaders and then escape was deemed not beneficial before the start of the battle, so a gag order was issued to those present. Yet, information about last night's events were still spreading among the soldiers. Or maybe he used some kind of high-rank magic. If that's true, this fight might be more troublesome than I thought. I mean, the city we're headed to is supposedly built by Luke Sama within a year. Yeah, just for that, they must be something else. Perhaps sensing that the soldiers were either slacking off or getting too anxious, Raoul's retainers shouted at them to set them straight. It didn't do much good though. Skevery last one of them. Irritated by his soldiers, Raoul distanced himself from them. He even had half a mind to leave the soldiers behind. He knew he could win all by himself anyway. In fact, he as a show of force. He had hoped that once his brother saw the difference between their armies, the latter would immediately fall to despair and beg for forgiveness. But just what happened last night? He appeared and vanished all of a sudden. To make it worse, instead of crying and begging, he acted like my army wasn't anything to worry about. While clenching his fist so tight that his nails bit into his skin, Raoul swore something. Luke, I'm not going to stop until I make your face twist with dread and despair. And then, I'm going to torment every fool who has supported you, Kyukiko. I can picture it now, your ugly, pitiful mug as you cry and beg for forgiveness. Consumed by such terrifying emotions, Raoul said so and then laughed maniacally. At that time though, the vanguard of the army became even noisier. When Raoul looked, a retainer was desperately rushing toward him. Raoul-sama? Terrible news? What is it? The wasteland? Based on that, something clearly happened in the wasteland. However, because the report was so incomprehensible, Raoul was forced to see it for himself. What waited for him was village, Raoul's army, ramparts. Phew, it's Donites not so bad, if I may say so myself. While looking down at the wasteland from atop an observation tower, I wiped my sweat with great satisfaction. Just recently, my village leveled up again and I became able to build new facilities. They were as follows. Ramparts 100. Castle Gate 100. Drawbridge 100. Library 300. Extra large house 500. Ramparts were pretty much a superior version of the stone walls at Novel Bin Adat. They were also made of stone, but the stones used in them were more durable. Moreover, ramparts were taller and thicker by default. It was about 10 meters tall and about 5 meters thick. Of course, at that thickness, soldiers could move along the top of the ramparts. Moreover, protruding on the top of the ramparts were parapets, which were low walls that the soldiers could use as cover against enemy arrows and whatever else. At only 100 points apiece, I was able to build a labyrinth of ramparts that surrounded the village. It was more work than I anticipated though. That was tiring. I just hope this is enough for us to be able to deal with Raoul's army. When I turned around, I saw a group of people that were in a daze. Rather than think that this might be just enough, isn't this actually going overboard? Why you think so? Just the sight of this should be enough to crush the enemy's morale. If I were a commander on the enemy side, I'll surely just give up. But wait, why not completely make the village unreachable? I tilted my head to Selon's question. Because that's unfair? I mean, it's a maze, so there should be an exit, right? Is now really the time to be virtuous? Selon said so, exasperated. Ha am I dreaming right now? That came from Silius Gun, whose face was twitching. Until recently, Silius Gun was repeatedly saying something along the lines of I've seen firsthand how powerful Raoul-sama Ishii has already mastered his sword master techniques gift, so even by himself, he can turn the tides of a battle? No matter how many people with combat type gifts you have in this village, they can't possibly hope to compete with Raoul-sama. No, sorry, but this isn't a dream, Silius Dano. Would you like me to pinch your cheek to be sure? Yes, please. There. Does it hurt? Yay toth, dish dims happy, like I thought, this is a dream, so happy right now. Silius Gun looked absolutely ecstatic. So amazing, Luke-sama. You've built all of this in no time at all. Meanwhile, Milia was practically jumping in excitement. And while we were like that, the labyrinth made of ramparts came into the view of Raoul's army. The soldiers in the front were totally bewildered. I hoped this was enough to convince them to turn back, but knowing Raoul's personality, there seemed little chance of that. And as though to confirm that, the army began moving forward once again and entered the labyrinth. What the hell is that? Why didn't I hear anything like that in the reports? The scouts are certain there were no walls like those yesterday. What are you trying to say? That those walls were built overnight? How does that make any sense? Raoul shouted so at his subordinate. Fearing it might be an illusion, they made the magicians they brought along to examine it, but they all said that it was real. After all, it was said to be impossible to bewitch this many people all at once. But then, can those walls possibly be built? The gigantic walls stretched from left to right, as far as their eyes could see. It almost seemed endless. They couldn't see anything that could resemble a gate. However, directly in front of them was a gap that they could use to enter. It was a suspicious gap, to say the least. An experienced leader would unmistakably make a prudent choice. Raoul, still young and still drunk on his success in the previous war, decided to push forward right away. All troops, march. We are 5,000 strong? No matter what tricks our enemy throws at us, we will meet it head-on and crush it. Raoul issued that command to his bewildered soldiers. By the way, at this point, they still haven't realized that what lied beyond was a hellish labyrinth. Raoul's army marched into the gap in the walls, and soon noticed something else that was strange. Another layer of walls stood in front of them. Worse, there were also walls to their left and right. That being said, it didn't seem like they were caged in. The walls on one side parted in such a way that a path was formed, allowing them to go forward at novel bin at. TCH? Not like walls like can ever stop our march? And so, Raoul ordered his soldiers to march forward. They initially took a right, but not far beyond was a dead end. Fortunately, they noticed that there was another gap to their right. After that, they went left and then another left. At that point, they had to choose between going left or right, but both led to a long passageway. Which one was the correct path, they couldn't tell. Damn it, what the hell's with this place? Even Raoul had become confused. He had expected for there to be a few walls to keep them from the village, but it was becoming clearer that it wasn't going to be as simple as that. Raoul decided to go left at the crossroads. Before long, they ran into a dead end. This time their only choice was to go back and choose the other path. At that point, it dawned on Raoul what the true nature of the walls were. Is these a labyrinth? Just the walls being built overnight was unbelievable enough, but now he was finding out that the walls formed a gigantic and elaborate labyrinth. Can this be because of his gift? If it is, the way wars are fought will change completely. Raoul thought so, but quickly shook his head. No, that can't be it. His gift's called village building, for crying out loud. How does any of this have anything to do with a village? It's more likely that he has a skilled magician at his side. Someone who could build such a fortress overnight would be considered a legendary earth mage. Raoul wasn't sure what trick or scheme was used, but he was convinced that Luke somehow convinced such a magician to join their side. That magician's impressive, but after building all of these, they must be exhausted. Even a legendary class magician must take a few days of rest before they can use magic again. Upon reflection, Raoul saw this as an opportunity. He would much rather overcome this labyrinth of castle walls than face a magician of that caliber in battle. Rather than move as one, we will split up. Divide yourselves up, and look for the correct path. As they were, it would take time to explore the labyrinth. The plan was that once a group has found the exit, directions to it would be immediately shared to the others and the army would eventually reunite. Based on the conclusion though, this decision was not the correct one. This route's a dead end as well, huh? A 500-strong battalion that has separated from the main body of the army has just confirmed that the route they were investigating was another dead end. As such, they decided to turn back. Leading this battalion was a longtime retainer of the Albert House. Still, just what is going on? To have this labyrinth made with castle walls, what kind of enemy are we up against? Even though he obediently did as he was told, even this experienced retainer couldn't help but be baffled by these never-before-seen events. They were supposed to be sieging a city built on the wastelands, yet this city in question was still nowhere in sight. At that moment though, *********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** examiner looked where his subordinate pointed to, and all words left him. A section of the walls that formed the labyrinth began moving before them. Worse yet, it was moving to close off the only way out of the dead end. Run! He shouted so, but it was already too late. They were now imprisoned by the walls. HMHM, so far, so good at novel bin at. Looking down at the labyrinth of ramparts from atop an observation tower, I confirmed that things were progressing as I planned. Raoul's army moved as anticipated, which was to split up into smaller groups so that they could find the exit faster. Whenever a group runs into a dead end, I made the ramparts move so that they would be locked in. As a result, Raoul's army has gone from 5,000 soldiers to only 1,000. That being said, even if they didn't do that and moved as one instead, they wouldn't be much better off. In all likelihood, they would run into dead ends multiple times and be exhausted by the time they make it to the village. So, in the end, simply moving as one couldn't be called a flawless decision either, if there ever was one. I know they're our enemy and all, but I can't help but feel a little sorry for them. What a labyrinth whose paths can be modified at will. How is this even remotely fair? Selin and Cilia said so as they looked at the panicking soldiers with eyes filled with sympathy. The labyrinth's still solvable, though. The more of them I trap, the less routes there are, making it easier to reach the exit. Again, what's the point of being so virtuous? By the way, I did think of making a three-dimensional labyrinth by also adding in underground tunnels, but decided against it in the end since it would be impossible to do in such a short time. If only I had the time. It sounds a whole lot like a dungeon though. Raoul-sama? We've lost contact with another unit that has scouted ahead. Damn it, what's going on here? Raoul's irritation has reached critical levels. He has been receiving such reports one after another. Apparently, the units that have went ahead to check on some routes have all vanished. In anticipation of enemy ambushes, each unit had about 500 people. Like that, as long as the ambush wasn't anything grand, the unit could repel it by themselves. Or, at the very least, hold on long enough for the main body or any other unit to arrive and provide help. Actually is this, preposterous, yes, preposterous rumor. Enough beating around the bush? Just say it already. They say that the walls moved. Huh? Zagagagagagago. At that moment, a rumble could be heard coming from somewhere. It even frightened the horse that Raoul was riding. Actually, they have heard similar noises several times before, but they had no idea what its true nature was. Wait, don't tell me. I'm afraid so. Raoul felt a shiver down his spine. If the walls are really being moved, then no matter how much we search this dim labyrinth, we'll never find an exit. And no, that's not possible. How can these walls be ever moved? Gah! Overcome by his rage, Raoul kicked away the soldier that delivered the report. The main body of his army was now composed of only roughly 1,000 soldiers. Moreover, after traversing the labyrinth whose exit seemed less and less certain to exist, the soldiers were now tired, in both body and mind. Even so, resting in such a place was just too dangerous. And turning back, well, Raoul would never allow such a thing. The only option left was to keep moving forward. And when the main body was composed of only 500 soldiers. It's a gate? Look. Can you see the buildings beyond the gate? Then, is that finally the city? For some reason, the gates were wide open. Beyond the gate was a vast and vacant land. At the moment, about 200 armed individuals were waiting on that land. At the head of that group was a person who Raoul knew all too well. Luke, I've finally reached you? It was only natural to feel suspicious in this situation. The enemy side has such splendid walls and gates, yet they kept them open. It would have made a bit of sense if the enemy side far outnumbered Raoul's forces, yet they were clearly numerically inferior. Despite all of those signs, Raoul, who was thoroughly consumed by his rage, gave an order to his troops to take the enemy head on and without regard for whatever trap that might be lying in wait. Argy? Whipping his horse hard, Raoul led the charge. However, when they were but a mere 200 meters away from their enemies, the ground beneath them disappeared all of a sudden. Raoul was unable to comprehend right away what was going on. Just a moment ago, he was walking on normal ground. However, in a blink of an eye, he and his horse have fallen into a pool of water. Fiwaha moat? Raoul wondered if the moat was simply made unnoticeable at first glance, but when he looked behind him, he doubted that was the case. He had traveled about 100 meters, so he should have fallen much earlier if the moat was just hard to notice. Moreover, all 500 soldiers that were behind him have also fallen into the water. The only other explanation he could think of was that the ground somehow instantly turned into the moat's water. Fortunately for them, the water was rather shallow. Raoul decided to abandon his panicking and rampaging horse, and swim across the moat. The other soldiers began doing the same. Luke, I'll make you pay for this? Raoul screamed so. However, in the next moment, the water in the moat suddenly vanished. The result was that all of them fell to the ground. Thanks to his reflexes, Raoul was able to land safely. However, the same couldn't be said for many of his soldiers. And due to the pain of the crash as well as the fatigue from being presented one bizarre situation after another, most of the soldiers were unable to muster the strength to get back up. What's going on? And no more. While the soldiers' wills were broken like that, the enemy launched another offensive. About 40 people approached and aimed their bows at the bottom of the moat. Although they were the enemies, the soldiers couldn't help but be captivated by the sight of all the good-looking archers lined up in a row. Wait, are they elves? Why are elves? Never mind that. Their arrows are coming. Duck. The soldiers panicked and tried to move once again, but to no avail this time as well. In that first volley, the enemy archers managed to injure more than 30 soldiers. Shortly after, another volley of arrows was inbound. Charge! Break through their lines. While deflecting the incoming arrows with his sword and pressuring his soldiers to go forward, Raoul dashed toward the enemies. The about 400 that remained of his army desperately tried to comply, but only 300 of them managed to get out of the moat. Even then though, they still outnumbered their enemies. Moreover, those that remained were mostly elites that achieved much in the previous war. Were more than enough. Let's kill them, eh? Drowning out Raoul's voice was a terrifying roar. Its source was a gigantic lizard-like creature that was approaching Raoul's army from the side at Novel bin Adat. A dragon? Raoul's army has made it past the labyrinth I made and was at the outskirts of the village. We managed to reduce their numbers from 5,000 to 500, yet it was still difficult to tell which side would win in a direct clash. For that reason, I decided to lay a few more traps. First, I lured them into the village, and just like I did against the bandit group before, I turned the ground they were on into a moat. The ground vanishing all of a sudden it's hella frightening. I still occasionally get nightmares of that time, and each time I wet my bed. As though they were reminded of that event, the former bandits became ghastly pale. Anyway, I managed to get all of Raoul's soldiers to fall into the moat. Not that this tactic was even possible to avoid. Last time, Selen froze the water, but we thought that there was too much water this time for that move to work. So, instead of that, I just removed the water while the enemy soldiers were trying their best to swim toward dry ground, causing them to fall into the moat's floor. Whoa, that's bound to cause some trauma. Yeah, I'm sure they'll remember this moment whenever they cross a river from now on. I feel a bit guilty now, like I'm bullying them or something, but they're the ones that came to attack, so the fault's all on them. While telling myself that, I mercilessly gave the next set of instructions. Philia-san, stop their advance. Roger. The elven archers stepped forward and let loose their arrows. Charge. Break through their lines. While pushing his soldiers like that and swatting the incoming arrows, Raoul dashed forward until he got out of the waterless moat. He's deflecting even Philia-san's arrows? Sword master techniques truly is something else. By my count, about only 300 soldiers managed to get out of the moat. They all seemed exhausted too. And yet, Raoul still shouted as though their victory was nigh. Huh? We're more than enough. Let's kill them, eh? You'll have to fight with the tree dragon first though, around the time that the main body of Raoul's army has broken through the labyrinth. Apologies? No matter how much we search, we can't find a way out. Additionally, all the walls seem to be too even, there's nothing to grab onto. We'll need proper equipment to climb out of here. I seem, not much we can do then. The soldiers, including the officers, that were trapped within the walls were on the verge of losing all hope. What's with this labyrinth anyway? And how can its walls move? What nonsense. Yeah, I'm just so confused. But then again, I can't complain about missing this fight. I mean, I've just been back from the last war, for crying out loud. What's more, this fight's basically a fight between brothers. Oi, someone might hear you. And when unrest among the soldiers was rising. What was that? Sounded like a roar. A distant roar silenced the soldiers in an instant. Every instinct in their body told them to run far away from this place and as soon as possible. Is it a monster? Now that I think about it, wasn't this wasteland near some monster-infested forest or something? They're not feeding us to the monsters, are they? Overcome with such terrible thoughts, the soldiers became as pale as snow. Raoul was in disbelief at the sight of the giant that was about to attack his troops. A dragon? But upon closer inspection, he noticed that the creature's skin was actually bark, and that there were branches and leaves all over its body. All signs pointed to the creature not being a real dragon, but what was known as a tree dragon. That being said, with a width of about 10 meters and a length of more than 30 meters, this tree dragon was very much comparable to a real dragon in terms of strength. The soldiers were attacked from their flanks and were blown away like leaves. Even the veterans and the elites were no match against it. What's going on? Raoul unintentionally stopped moving and stared at the unfolding carnage. All these walls and it still got in? What? Did they tame it? He turned his gaze toward the enemy army, and he was convinced. Not a single one of them, including his accursed half-brother, was panicking. They knew that this monster would not attack them. Do they have someone with a monster tamer gift? TCH? But then, that makes things simple. Everyone, ignore that monster and charge toward the enemy army? Raoul has decided that rather than deal with the monster, it would be much quicker to deal with the one controlling it. The tree dragon has caused significant damage to the troops in the rear, but those in the vanguard have remained mostly unharmed. Moreover, these 100 or so left were the elites of the elites of the elites. And so, even after coming here and experiencing all that, these soldiers still had the resolve to carry on. Like an angry wave crashing on the shore, the remaining troops charged once more against the enemies at Novel bin Adat. Leading the charge was Raoul, and the first to stand in their way was an enemy soldier with a gigantic shield. This enemy soldier had an impressive physique, but looked young, about the same age as Raoul. You're in my way? I'll cut down your giant body along with that shield of yours? Up until now, they have been toyed with by the enemies. In an effort to signal the start of their counter-offensive, Raoul readied to put all of his fighting spirit into his next attack. But then, the enemy, shield still in hand, decided to charge forward ferociously as well. Raoul didn't expect that move, but thanks to his quick reflexes, he was immediately able to respond with a slash. Yet, the enemy was ever so slightly faster. Shield bash? Before he knew it, he was flying in the air at great speed. Raoul was hit by a giant shield and was sent flying. Eventually, he crashed to the ground and tumbled over and over again. Raoul-sama? When the marching soldiers saw their leader, whom they expected to break through enemy lines, get sent back, they unintentionally stopped. It was because their side had Raoul, who possessed the gift that was said to be unmatched, that these soldiers were able to carry on. So, seeing that leader being repelled by a single enemy, the soldiers trembled fiercely. Preposterous show can I at Novel bin Adat. Despite standing up, Raoul was unable to hide his confusion as to what just happened. And taking advantage of this, the enemy leader gave a command to his troops. Everyone, are you ready? All right, charge! Hey! With a thundering war cry, the enemies rushed toward Raoul's confused and unmoving army. Engage! In a fluster, Raoul shouted so. Soon after, the two armies clashed against one another. The enemy army was composed of 200 soldiers. As for their side, although there was only about 100 of them left, each one of them was an elite soldier. Many of them even had combat-type gifts. Even if they were somehow caught in an ambush, these soldiers wouldn't ever lose to a disorganized and untrained mob of immigrants. Or so it should have been. Who are these people? They're too strong. Raoul's elites were completely outmatched. And it wasn't just because they were outnumbered. Even 1 against 1, the elites were being pushed back. Who are you? How are you able to fight against a gift-bearer like me? Are you some renowned knight who's in hiding in this wasteland? No, I'm just a villager. Just a villager, my foot. Even those that had gifts were having a great deal of trouble against the enemies. Impossible? How can this be happening? How are there so many strong soldiers in this wasteland city? Raoul, as you can see, you have no chance of winning. There's no sense in continuing to fight. You should just declare your surrender right away. Selin? The one to appear before a very baffled Raoul was a blue-haired girl named Selin. Like I suspected, you are with Luke. When the population of the village reached 10,000, my village leveled up and I gained a new village skill called Villager Strengthening. In simple terms, it boosts my villagers' stats temporarily. How long it lasts would depend on the strengthening effect I've chosen to apply. For example, supposing I've decided to double someone's stats, that effect would last for about 5 minutes. However, if I only boosted that villager's stats by 1.5 times, the effect could last for about 10 minutes. Once the applied effects were gone, I couldn't use the skill again for about an hour. Fortunately, there wasn't any limit to how many people I could use it on at once. In other words, it was possible for me to strengthen all 200 villagers that were about to fight. You're in my way? I'll cut down your giant body along with that shield of yours? Protect the chief, I will. Strengthen Noel Kun? Noel Kun intended to fight with the approaching Raoul in order to protect me. He had the shield master techniques and should be fine even on his own, so I decided to support him by giving him a boost of only 1.2 times. Shield bash? Like that, Noel Kun sent Raoul flying. Raoul's soldiers couldn't believe that their leader who had sword master techniques was repelled so easily. So much so that they stopped their march. Not missing a beat, I gave a command. Everyone, are you ready? All right, charge. Hey! The villagers, who were now 1.5 times stronger than usual, gave out such a war cry in response. Majority of the 200% had gifts, while the rest had experience fighting because they were adventurers and former bandits. As for the enemy side, the remaining soldiers seemed to be elites, but not only did we outnumber them, we also outmatched them especially after the strengthening. And so, they were completely overpowered. At the moment, Selin was confronting Raoul and convincing him to surrender. Shut up, I haven't lost yet. Raoul rejected Selin's advice to surrender. Haven't lost, look around you. Can you really say that? While they were talking like that, Raoul's remaining elites were falling one by one. They're so strong. How can you be just a villager GHH? Raoul Sama forgive. On the other hand, none of the villagers have been injured severely. And even if they have, we had many elves who could perform healing magic to return them into fighting condition in no time. In other words, our war potential would remain the same while Raoul's troops continually dwindled. Tri-chan, great work. You can go now. Thanks ever so much. Naruru said so while guiding the tree dragon who was trampling the rear guards of the enemy army just a few moments ago. You've brought more than 5,000 soldiers with you, but look how many of them are left. No matter who looks at it, you've already been defeated. Shut up, there is no way that I would be defeated by the likes of you. All of a sudden, right after Raoul shouted so, his whole body was enveloped by some kind of light. Looky, as long as I kill you, I'll win. With bloodshot eyes, Raoul glared at me and then charged at a great speed. What fierce fighting aura. Luke Dono, retreat at once. Philia-san yelled so while firing her arrows. The arrows hit Raoul, but as soon as they did, each one shattered and fell for some reason. What's going on? Is that really because of that fighting aura or something? Chief? Intercepting Raoul this time was Noel Kun. It looked as though he was about to do what he did a while ago. Shield bash? Don't think that'll work again? With a roaring sound, Noel Kun and Raoul clashed once more. This time though, Raoul did not get sent flying. Wait, is he pushing Noel Kun back? I hurriedly increased the strengthening effect on Noel Kun, but it was already too late. Noel Kun? In a reversal of earlier events, Noel Kun got sent flying. And though he has slowed down a bit, Raoul was still headed my way. But now, there was no one else who could protect me in time. So, is this it? No, not if I can still help it. Zagagagagagago. I constructed a rampart before me and immediately sent it forward. Before long, I heard a boom and saw a trembling in the rampart, suggesting to me that it crashed with Raoul on the other side. What a crash it was though. I couldn't help but wonder what would have become of me if I was hit with Raoul's charge. I was just glad that the rampart held up. Which was to be expected, I guess, but even I was worried that Raoul would smash it down. I then used intruder detection and found out that Raoul seemed to be stationary somewhere in the middle of the rampart. I hope it's because he's finally tired himself out. Damn, am I still haven't here. But then, he somehow had the strength physical and mental to start moving again. I had no idea what could push him this hard, but no matter what it was, I could not allow myself to be defeated. Go 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 go. At novel bin at. I used facility customization on the rampart I built and turned it into a golem. Huh? If his dropped jaw was any indication, Raoul seemed dumbfounded by the gigantic golem that was suddenly before him. Also, the enigmatic light that covered his body was growing dim by the moment. Along with it, his movements looked more sluggish. Raoul, sorry, but you've lost. I said so and made the golem swing its fist. Raoul tried to guard against it, but was still blown away for about 10 meters. No, I won't lose to the likes of you. For adventurers like us, this village was all sorts of wonderful. Not only did it provide delicious food and clean beds, it also had a dungeon where we could earn our keep. And on top of all that, we were able to receive our gifts because of this village at novel bin at. For all those reasons, I decided to fight for the village. The enemy was said to be village chief's half-brother, but as long as he aims to destroy the village, I had no intention of holding back. With my gift, I felt stronger than ever. I even felt like I could take on 100 normal soldiers all by myself. Well, that wasn't climactic. I thought we were supposed to be fighting 5,000 soldiers. Yeah, I found myself agreeing to Hazena's words of disappointment. The enemy general has been captured, thus ending the fighting. In fact, it was a complete victory. No one from our party even got wounded. Not even 500 soldiers reached this very mean. What was that maze of walls anyway? They weren't there yesterday, right? I obviously think that Chief Luke is an amazing person, but it would seem our assessments of him were off. Chief Luke, Hesh is utterly absurd. Ha what I fool I was to even have worried. I watched it all unfold from the top of an observation tower in the center of the village. My guards including Bizarra weren't with me at the moment since they were in the battlefield below. Instead, I was with Milius Ameliaxama's maid and a few others. When Raoul Sama's 5,000 soldiers first arrived, Luke didn't even break a sweat. For why would he, when the labyrinth he made took care of most of those soldiers? That said, some of them still broke through. When the remaining soldiers charged, a moat likely built by Luke Sama's gift suddenly appeared in place of the ground. The soldiers fell to the water, dampening them and their fighting spirit. That gigantic tree in the field sits a tree dragon? I had exclaimed so when I saw the tree suddenly move and then charge at the enemies. I just couldn't believe they had tamed even such a monster. In the end though, the two armies or what's left clashed against each other. Thankfully, the side that triumphed was ours. Better yet, our triumph was an overwhelming one. None of us were seriously wounded. In fact, Bizarra, who was prepared to kill and to be killed, had the chance to engage only a single enemy. That enemy was already tired and wounded when they fought, so when Bizarra attacked them, they immediately fainted. I should show my appreciation for his efforts later. At any rate, with that, my family was now safe. My wife, who was in furious opposition right to the end, should now be able to find some way to forgive me. Or at least I hope. If things didn't work out, I fear she'll have killed me before any announcement of my execution was made. I had lost my position as governor of the north and there was no chance of getting it back, but that was nothing. I was of the mind that our family should move here in the village anyway. I would very much like it to see how the village would develop, preferably firsthand and beside Luke Sama. And whenever possible, I would like to make use of my experience as governor alongside whatever else I could offer to contribute to the growth of the village. It's so absurd. Silius remarked so. More than he was delighted by the fact that their side won, he was shocked. His sister had told him to return home, but in the end, he decided to stay in the village. Of course, not just as a spectator but as a soldier should the situation call for it. It's just that the situation never called for it. He was on standby in an observation tower all throughout the fighting. The battle aside, it was clear to him that the observation tower he was in was odd. Even from the tower, he was able to see a small stone in the ground so clearly. It was as if his vision had improved multiple times. And thanks to that, he was able to see her dignified beauty as she stood in the battlefield, bow in hand. Of course, he tried to avert his sight away, saying to himself that this was not the time for such a thing, only for him to look at her again. That's. When he tried to avert his eyes away from her again, he saw a group arrive in the wasteland. Thanks to his enhanced vision, he saw that the group was armed, making him think they were enemy reinforcements. But then, he recognized a person in the vanguard. For how could he not recognize the person? Father? Double time. Rousing the 500 troops behind him was Swordsmanship. Most of the troops were foot soldiers, yet they still tried as much as they could to keep up with the pace of their lord in horseback. As for where they were headed, it was to the wasteland in the north of the Albert territory. Damn, fighting must have started by now. We have to make it there before it ends at novel bin at. Seds was in such a haste all the way from the Bizureta territory because he received a report stating that Rald, next head of the Albert House, was marching with 5,000 soldiers toward the city in the wasteland where his children were currently in. I think this is the first time I've seen Sed Sama be this impatient, but who can blame him? As things are, he stands to lose his 2 children. Still, can an army this small overturn that fate? Not only are we against Raoul Sama and his gift, we also have to worry about 5,000 soldiers. No matter, I'll fight to the end if I have to. Resolving himself to fall with his master, the retainer marched alongside Seds. If it gets known that those two are on Luke Sama's side, it'll be the end of our Bazureta house. No matter what, I must get there before the city falls and offer reinforcement to Raul Sama. That's the only way our house will be forgiven. That's it. The retainer thought Seds has chosen to oppose Raul in order to protect his children, but it now seemed the other way around. He's abandoning his children to save his own skin? No, more like life reason he wants to cooperate with Raul Sama is so that he can plead for his children's lives. Yes, that must be it. This way, no harm will come to the Bazureta territory as well. Such an impressive plan, said Sama. Like that, they marched on. Eventually, they reached the wasteland in question. And there, they saw something odd. What's that? Large castle walls ran through the wasteland. Even the castle walls in the kingdom's royal capital would seem modest compared to the walls here. To say nothing of the walls in other major cities, of course. Seds couldn't wrap his head around how such walls could be here in this remote wasteland of all places. Luke Sama's city is behind those walls? They surveyed the ground, but they saw no sign of Raul's army. They assumed that Raul's army must have broken through already. Said Sama, look over there? Seds looked where his subordinate pointed. There, he saw a gap in the walls. There was no gate or anything of the sort, so anyone could enter and go freely. Then, what's the point of these walls? While Sed's bewilderment was growing like that, a group on horseback emerged from beyond the walls. Father? Silius? Despite asking in his head how his son was here while the fight was ongoing, Seds hugged Silius. Is the fight over already? We were too late, then But how are you here? Did you predict the outcome and defected to Raul Sama's side? No, father. Luke Dono won. And don't worry, sister's safe. Really? The results were completely different from what he anticipated, so Seds couldn't help but be shocked. Luke Sama won? Isn't that absurd? Father, did you come here to support us? In spite of the risks to our territory you came for us. Why yes, of course. Damn the risks, there's no way I wouldn't have come for you. Father, we've left you, yet for us you'd still. Silius' eyes were full of tears and admiration for his father. Meanwhile, Seds began to break into cold sweat. I can't say I can't admit that I was going to support Raul Sama even if it meant forsaking my children. They brought it upon themselves, but given that Luke Sama won, their choice has proven to be the correct one. Then, all I have to do is act like I believed in them from the beginning. Then, Belrith-san, I'll leave the rest to you. Understood? Like that, I saw the village chief off as he returned to the village with the unconscious enemy leader. The enemy leader was supposedly the village chief's brother, and the battle was apparently due to a dispute on who would be heir. I wasn't really knowledgeable on the subject, but when I heard that 5,000 soldiers were marching towards the village, I was struck with terror nonetheless. Even so, I was confident that we would win, especially after I saw the labyrinth of castle walls that was built overnight. It goes without saying, but our village chief truly was extraordinary. At any rate, the battle was already over now. The enemies have thrown down their weapons and surrendered, which was only to be expected, given the hardships they were subjected to, all on top of their leader being defeated. I announced something to them. Well now begin treating the wounded? We're going to prioritize those with more serious wounds, so let us know if you're one. Why you're going to heal us too? Yes, of course. It's what our village chief wishes. There weren't that many among us that got wounded anyway, and whenever any of us did, the elves would immediately come to give us medical treatment. Because of that, the wounded right now mostly consisted of the enemy soldiers. An elf. Yes, but more importantly, please show me where you're hurt. Our medical team, composed mainly of the elves, began treating the enemies one after another. Their healing ability was really outstanding. While the enemy soldiers were still deeply captivated by their beauty, the elves have finished all the treatment. To have easily crushed 5,000 soldiers, plus the kindness of healing those enemies. And he has the ability to create a city in no time. Yeah, it'd be nice if Luke Sama was the next lord, wouldn't it? I heard such comments from the soldiers. So you two now know the magnificence of Luke Sama. The village chief was definitely more suitable to the position than someone who loved wars. If it was him in charge, the territory would surely flourish. Unfortunately, Luke Sama himself has no desire of becoming the next lord. Even if he doesn't want to though, someday. Seems everyone's patched up. Alright, follow me? I guided the puzzled soldiers into the village. We stopped when we reached a certain spot. That spot was where a few apartment buildings were located. The village chief probably thought that the soldiers have grown weary from the battle as well as from the journey, and thus built these buildings specifically for them, all 5,000 of them. What are those structures at Novel bin at? They're as tall as no, they're even taller than those walls. With 5 stories each, the apartment buildings were indeed taller than the castle walls. There were more than 30 of those buildings lined up here, which no doubt stunned most of the soldiers. One could argue that these buildings would be needed anyway when the population of the village grows in the future, but that still didn't stop me from admiring the vastness of the village chief's heart for giving such considerations to the soldiers who attacked his village. You all must be tired. For the time being, please rest within these buildings. While explaining so, I inwardly became excited. After all, once they got to know the comforts of the apartments, Just one night's stay should be enough to make them want to live in the village. Fufufu. The soldiers entered the mysterious buildings and immediately became amazed. Look at this. Water comes out of this thing so easily. It can produce hot water too. So, we can really take a bath whenever we want? Each room Heir's got its own lavatory and kitchen. This bed, it's so soft and comfy. Oi, don't sleep yet. Weren't you listening? They're serving food later. It didn't even take a full night to convince them to stay. When will we get out of here? The knight and the force he led were trapped within the walls, and he found himself unable to do anything about it. He, loyal retainer of the Albert house, had participated in the recent war against the Schnegger house, and there, he saw the might of Raoul firsthand. Due to that, he thought victory would come easy this time as well. Things didn't go as expected though. Some time ago, they heard a thunderous roar, making them shiver with the thought that monsters from the nearby monster-infested areas were set loose to attack them. Yet, things remained calm and seemed to remain so for some time. And after a while of it, he and the soldiers have grown bored and sat on the ground at novel bin at. Can you hear me? He suddenly heard a voice. Without thinking, he looked around to find the source, but the soldiers around him were minding their business and were unlikely to be the one that spoke to him. I'm not nearby. I'm speaking directly into your mind. Directly into my mind? Regardless whether it was through magic or a gift, the fact that they had an enemy with such ability was enough to make him increase his vigilance. The battle is over. Your leader has been captured, and the main body of your army has surrendered. What? Stop spouting lies. There's no way Raoul-sama's been defeated. Having heard that information, he shouted without meaning to. This caused a stir among the soldiers, leading him to think that this was part of the enemy's trap. You're just saying that to rattle us up, aren't you? We won't fall for that trick, you bastard. What good will rattling you up do? You're trapped there, there's nothing you can do against us anyway. GHH. What the other person made sense to him, making him unable to offer a rebuttal. Listen, if you want to get out of there, you'll have to follow my instructions. Your instructions? Firstly, I want all of you to throw your weapons to the ground. If you don't want to, it's fine by me. Just don't blame us if you starve to death in there. GHH. Having heard his side of the conversation, the soldiers talked among themselves. Things like, was Raoul-sama really defeated? Then, is the battle over? I hope they'll let us out of here soon could be heard here and there. Like that, it was now impossible to maintain morale without doing what the voice instructed. I understand, we surrender. He then gave instructions to the soldiers to throw down their weapons to the ground. In the first place, the soldiers didn't really support the justification for the battle that they were given. Add to that the unheard of things that happened like the maze and how it trapped them with its walls, and it was really to no one's surprise that not a single soldier was against surrendering. Zuzu. The walls? We can finally get out. The walls that locked them in moved, allowing them to get out of the enclosure. There was still the maze to contend with, but the voice provided them with accurate instructions on how to overcome it. Before long, they saw the city in the wasteland. Watre, those tall buildings, there's so many of them too. This place really built in just a year. Thanks to the series of unforeseen events, the retainer grew dizzy. More importantly, where's the main army, and the others as well? Don't worry. They're just up ahead. Okay. Still vigilant, the retainer followed the voice's instruction. What they found ahead was, man, this meat's so delicious. Not just the meat. Even the vegetables are so unbelievable. They found their allies enjoying a barbecue. Huh? What's happening? Oh. When the aromatic scent reached him, he couldn't help but drool. As you can see, it's a barbecue. There's more than enough for you guys as well. Feel free to eat as much as you want. Wah. After a little while, familiar people called out to him. Ah, Peldano, you're here? Better start eating, haha. Sealdano? And Baidendano too? These fellow knights were in charge of their own units, but have since surrendered as well. What's happening here? Drool. Luke-sama arranged this for us. Nom nom, he knew we'd be hungry and, nom nom, prepared this for us. Please decide whether you're going to talk or eat, drool. Says the one who can't stop himself from drooling. Due to the deployment being rushed, their army actually didn't have enough provisions for a prolonged battle. And as such, food was rationed quite conservatively, leaving the soldiers fairly hungry. Anyway, Peldano, shouldn't you give your subordinates the permission to eat soon? The more you delay, the more they'll resent you, you know. After being told so, the retainer looked behind him. There, he saw his subordinates looking at him with frightening looks on their faces. Even if they were hungry and even if the food was right before them, the soldiers knew better than to eat before being given the permission to do so. If left as they were, never mind the soldiers resenting him, they would curse him to death. And so, the retainer hurriedly shouted something to them. Everyone, you may now eat. Yes, sir. Although he was also a child of Lord Albert, the fact of the matter was that his mother was only a concubine. As such, the treatment given to him was completely different from the treatment provided to Luke, the child of the legal wife. Celebrations for Luke were always grand. The food served were always delicious. And the presents he received would always be numerous and expensive. On the other hand, celebrations for Raoul were always meager. The food was no different from usual, aside from the addition of a simple cake. And the presents he received were always a fraction of what Luke got. Oh, my poor Raoul. You should have been the heir, and yet. Raoul would often hear his mother say so. When it was assumed that Lord Albert's wife wouldn't be blessed with a child no matter what, Raoul's mother who was serving as a maid back then was chosen to be a concubine. And in just a year after that, Raoul was born. Raoul's mother was from a low-ranking noble house and thus had no gift, but just the fact that she became pregnant was enough to make House Albert rejoice. And when she successfully gave birth to the heir apparent, they all celebrated. However, not long after, in only a few days in fact, it was discovered that Lord Albert's wife was with child. After a few months, she successfully gave birth to Luke. As a result, Raoul was no longer considered to be the heir. Furthermore, it was decided that Luke, despite being born later, was to be considered the older brother and Raoul was to be the younger. I'm so sorry, Raoul, if only your mother was from a better noble house, or if I had a gift maybe then, your position as heir wouldn't have been stolen away from you. I'm so sorry. Raoul would always be rendered speechless whenever his mother would apologize profusely like that. At first, he blamed himself for it, then his fate, until eventually, he blamed Luke. In his mind, his mother wouldn't be suffering like this if only Luke wasn't born. His feelings turned into hatred, and only grew over the passage of time. However, when they turned 12, everything changed. Luke Albert Sama, your gift. Let's see, village building. During their blessing ceremony, it turned out that Luke failed to inherit their father's swordmaster techniques. Moreover, the gift he got seemed entirely useless. Raoul Albert Sama, your gift is what's this? Your gift is swordmaster techniques. On the other hand, against all odds, Raoul managed to inherit their father's gift. Lord Albert, who has been partial toward Luke, showed Raoul a smile for the very first time. As for his mother, she was so overjoyed that she began to cry. From that day on, everyone's treatment of Raoul changed. Even his mother, who was pretty much driven into obscurity, became treated favorably. Thanks to his success in getting Luke exiled, as well as the opportunity to showcase the power of his gift and his leadership capabilities in the war that occurred soon after the blessing ceremony, his position as the heir was pretty much secured. Or so he believed. 2 layers of walls, each one better than those in the royal capital, a population of at least 10,000, a dungeon. What is this nonsense? You have the gall to show me this nonsense? Some time later, Raoul learned of the rumor about a grand city that was built in an unbelievably short amount of time. According to the rumor, the city was supposedly in the wasteland where Luke was banished to. Due to how ridiculous it sounded, Raoul didn't give much credence to the rumor at first. However, as more information about it came to light, the more he grew worried that it might be true. Luke, how are you still alive? Are you going to get in my way yet again? He has been robbed of the position of being the heir before, but he had no intention of letting it happen once again. As such, he assembled 5,000 soldiers and departed to attack Luke and that city. Unfortunately, what awaited Raoul in that wasteland was a series of unfortunate events. A labyrinth made of intimidating castle walls. The steady disappearance of his soldiers. A fall to a moat that wasn't there a moment prior at novel been at. The rampage of a tree dragon. The experience of being blown far away by just one person. His elite soldiers being easily beaten by a group of civilian-turned-amateur soldiers. At that point, he decided to use his last resort in order to take down Luke and turn the tide of the battle. When he leapt at his brother though, a wall appeared out of nowhere and stopped him. More surprisingly, he saw that wall change into a gigantic golem before his eyes. The wall. This isn't earth magic, no. So then, what? It's this prick's gift? His village building? If their father knew what Luke's village building, which they thought to be a useless gift, could actually do, if their father knew Raoul challenged Luke and then lost, Raoul would once again be displaced as heir. No, I won't be defeated by the likes of you. Raoul was then sent flying by the golem's punch. The will to fight was still strong within him, but even then, he was unable to stop his consciousness from fading. I won't lose to you. Raoul shouted so as soon as he next opened his eyes. Was that just a dream? Raoul wondered so. But all hopes of it being just a long, awful dream were dashed when he looked at his surroundings and realized where he was. A prison? Was that just a dream? Raoul, who has just woken up, breathed out a sigh of relief. In this supposed dream, despite leading an army of 5,000 soldiers, he was still defeated by Luke. It was so impossible that it could have been nothing but a dream. If it was indeed a dream, he thought he and his army might still be in their camp in the wasteland the night before the battle. However, when he looked around, he found he wasn't in his tent. A prison? Raoul was lying on a bed surrounded by stone walls and iron bars. Good morning, Raoul. How are you feeling? When Raoul saw the person on the other side of the iron bars and to whom the friendly-sounding voice belonged, he reflexively shouted their name. Luke? Even though Raoul was fiercely glaring at Luke, the latter kept smiling. You're hungry, right? Have you come to mock me? Nope. Look, I brought you some food. They're the village's specialty, you know. Luke said so and then slid in a tray of food into the dedicated hole in the middle of the iron bars. What are you scheming here? Nothing. I just want you to eat. There's no poison in it, if that's what you're worried about. Angered, Raoul tried to throw the tray away, but paused to look at its contents when the aroma hit him. There, he found a massive steak. It was still making sizzling noises on the metal plate it was served in. Based on its looks alone, Raoul could tell that it was some high-quality meat. Gulp. Growl. His throat and stomach told him so at the same time. While his pride and his appetite were battling it out, Luke proceeded to tell him something. It's minotaur meat from our dungeon. Minotaur meat? No, more importantly, what? Your dungeon? There's a dungeon near here? Yup. But let's talk about the details of that later. For now, just eat, okay? TCH. The only time that Raoul has ever eaten minotaur meat was during the celebration feast after he got his gift. Its taste still lingered in his mind, and just remembering it was enough to make him salivate. Given that all his equipment was taken, and that he was being imprisoned by the thick iron bars, there was nothing much he could at the moment to help himself. Starving himself would only serve to worsen the situation. So, instead, he thought he should utilize the foolish generosity of his enemies. He came up with such reasons, but the fact of the matter simply was that his appetite won. Whoa! The moment he took a bite, an explosion of flavorant juices happened in his mouth. He had no doubt that this was indeed minotaur meat. Only, this was so much better than the one he had before. From that point on, he couldn't stop himself from eating. He was apparently so hungry that the whole 200 grams of meat vanished in an instant. All that was left was the vegetable garnishing. Raoul wasn't fond of vegetables, but in an effort to distract himself from the sorrow of having eaten all of the meat, he reluctantly put the vegetables in his mouth. It's good. Much to his surprise, even the carrots, which were one of his many least favorites, tasted sweet, like it was some kind of fruit. In an instant, he finished the vegetable garnishing as well. Do you want more? Give me. Raoul forgot his rivalry with Luke and demanded for a second helping. Before long, that second helping was gone as well. Now full though, Raoul has finally relaxed. And at this point, he no longer had a choice but to recognize something. I lost, didn't I? It wasn't a dream at novel bin at. All of those things really happened. He lost. Huh? What are you talking about? Huh? What are you talking about? Huh? Luke seemed confused, making Raoul bewildered as well. I'll just say, thank goodness you were here. I don't know if we would have been able to drive away that tree dragon without you. It's just a shame that it managed to knock you out with that last desperate attack. Oi, what are you saying? Raoul was now even more bewildered by Luke's fabricated tale. Huh? Didn't you lead your army here to repel the tree dragon that came from the monster-infested forest? Did that blow you took mess your memories up? Raoul finally realized what Luke's intention was, to shift all the blame to that monster and make peace. It left him quite dumbfounded. How much more do you want to make fun of me before you're satisfied? I'm not making fun of you though. I'm just saying our interests overlap this time. How so? You want to keep being the heir of the Albert house, right? I, on the other hand, don't want to be. I would much rather live my days in peace here in this village at Novel Bin at. Luke's eyes were resolute when he said so, which made Raoul acknowledge Luke's sincerity. So, how about we move on like no battle happened between us? Of course, father would have to be kept in the dark on everything about me. Like that, we'll both get what we want. For Raoul, who led 5,000 soldiers but still lost spectacularly, there might not be a better offer than this. Nevertheless, his pride prevented him from accepting right away. You've successfully built a city in a barren wasteland within just a year. If you so wanted, you can take over the Albert territory, or even the country. Hell, even the whole world might be up for the taking. Yet you expect me to believe that you're perfectly content on being in this wasteland? Yeah, actually. I can never understand what goes on in that head of yours. Raoul clicked his tongue, expressed words of exasperation, and then sighed. Despite being brothers, they valued things far too differently. Raoul sensed his hatred slowly fading away, and he even felt silly for being so agitated all this time. As though understanding what Raoul was feeling at the moment, Luke slid a portion of the iron bars aside and revealed an opening. What are you playing at now? Huh? The negotiation's over now, right? TCH. Despite his irritation, Raoul exited out of the cell. He was without a sword, but Raoul figured he could still take down Luke. The only thing was, he no longer had a desire to. Luke might have foreseen this, given how completely calm he was. You look healthier than I expected. Good. Oi, I just fainted for a bit. For a bit? I wouldn't exactly call 3 days a bit. 3 days? I was out for 3 days? Yup. We treated your wounds right away, but you just weren't waking up. Raoul then understood why he was so hungry earlier. But considering that 3 days have passed, his army or what's left of it should have disbanded by now. Everyone's still here though. Huh? The city was bustling with activity. Several shops stood side by side, and people were coming and going. A city like this was built within just a year? Raoul was astonished. When he pushed to have Luke be exiled, he never imagined that the latter would be able to build such a magnificent city in an empty, barren wasteland within a year's time. Grilled minotaur meat on a stick? Grilled minotaur meat on a stick? Fresh from the labyrinth. Get your steamed bun filled with orc meat. Still piping hot? When savory scents drifted toward him, Raoul noticed the unbelievable words that the barkers were shouting. Oi, don't tell me it's commonplace to sell minotaur and orc meat here. Yeah. Raoul, recalling the fantastic taste of the meat he had earlier, almost went toward the stalls, but somehow managed to endure. Afterwards, Luke took him to a place with frighteningly large buildings. What are those? They're called apartment buildings. Each one contains multiple dwellings called apartments. Anyway, your soldiers are staying there for the moment. All 5,000 of them? You speak like accommodating them's the easiest thing in the world. I wish you'd stay a bit longer. A single day after he awoke, Raoul gathered his soldiers, intent on leaving the village right away. Shut up. If we stay here any longer, you'll make all my soldiers become useless. Raoul spitted out some rather harsh words. I don't think we've treated them so badly that they'll become like that though. We entertained the soldiers like guests, so I was quite confident they had a pleasant stay. We're going back already? I wish we could have stayed here a lit bit more. I really don't want to go back though, kinda feels like the end of a great vacation. I wonder if I'll ever get to drink more of that delicious alcohol again someday. But when I looked at the soldiers' faces, they looked a bit lifeless. They were so full of life just yesterday though. That's not what I meant. TCH, I see now why people are coming to your city. After uttering something angrily, Raoul faced his soldiers and announced something. Listen up. We're going back to the capital right now. Like that, the army slowly marched out of the village. What? Oi, where's that mace? That? It was in the way, so I took it down. Took it down. Raoul seemed to want to say something, but then simply continued moving forward. You're welcome to visit anytime. I'm never coming here again. I said so while waving my hand. Raoul angrily shouted back that he would never come to the village again, but I took that to mean that he just had no intention of attacking us again. And they're gone. Great work, Luke-sama. Milia. After I have seen Raoul's army off, Milia approached. I didn't expect Raoul-sama to be won over. You're really something, Luke-sama. If it was possible to win over someone like Raoul through simple conversation, the world would have been peaceful long ago. No, it's not as amazing as that. Our interests just overlapped this time. In any case, the village should come back to being peaceful again. Luke-sama? Wait, you're... A man I've met before rushed toward me. When I saw Selen and Silius behind the man, I became certain of his identity. Lord Bazureta? He was the head of the Bazureta house. Or probably more importantly, he was the father of Selen and Silius. When I realized who he was, I reflexively tensed up. Thank you for looking after my daughter and my son. But I must say, it is truly amazing that you were able to build a city as grand as this in such a short time. When I first heard that you were sent to develop a wasteland, I was quite astonished. But looking back, Lord Albert must have believed that you can do such a difficult task. I initially thought that Lord Bazureta journeyed all the way here to take back his children, but the mood around him suggested that it might not be the case. You're singing quite the different tune now that Luke won, aren't you? I mean, didn't you march here to help Raoul? Selen snorted in dismay. My sister, it isn't like that at all. Our father has brought troops solely so that he can help us. Obviously, yes. What Silius just said? Really? At any rate, Luke-sama, please continue looking after my children? I fear I must now bid you farewell. He explained that there was something pressing he must attend to back at his territory and so must depart as soon as possible. I wish he stayed in the village a little longer at Novel bin Adat. No, it's absolutely better he doesn't. At least stay for a meal. No, it's absolutely better he doesn't. For some reason, both Selen and Silius zealously stopped me from asking Lord Bazureta to stay longer. Are they not close? I mean, it'll be troublesome if he ends up saying he never wants to return home again. As expected, if even my lord father leaves the territory. I did not get why the two looked so worried, but in any case, their stay in the village was now officially allowed. Thank goodness for that. It was after Raoul's army left. I walked up to the now vacant and now quiet apartment building his soldiers used. There is someone hiding here, right? It's all right. I'm not here to reprimand you, so please come out now. A young man then emerged from the closet of an apartment unit. Yes, he was one of the soldiers in Raoul's army. You do know that everyone has left, right? I do. But this village is too great? I don't want to return. Oh, that's why. I initially thought he just didn't want to put up with the strictness of being in the army anymore. He wasn't the only one hiding in this apartment building. There were about 30 of them. Normally, finding all of them would have been quite the task, but thanks to my intruder detection village skill, I was able to do it easily. Even so, is it normal for there to be so many deserters? Well, they did leave in a hurry, so I guess it's understandable that they didn't do a thorough head count. Please, let us stay in your village, please? The deserters desperately bowed their heads and asked me so. When I asked for more details, I found out that everyone here had other jobs and were conscripted only because of the urgency. In that case, I thought there wouldn't be a problem in letting them stay. Whether they left with the army or not, they would soon return to being civilians anyways. Okay, but only after you've notified your family and maybe folks in your hometown. Yeah, if they decide they want to live here as well, that's fine as well. Thank you. Like that, they temporarily returned. Speaking of people wanting to migrate, they weren't the only ones. You don't want to go back to Reason, Dan-san? Yes. If it's alright with you, I'd like to stay here in the village. I obviously don't mind it, but are you sure that's wise? Even if I go back now, there's no reason to hope that I'll remain as governor of the north. I dare say it's only a matter of time before my replacement arrives. Which I guess was to be expected, given that he did oppose Raoul. I see. Then, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Luke-sama. Oh, thank goodness a wife ended up liking the life here so much. I was afraid what would happen if I told her we had to go back. For some reason, Dan-san quickly became teary-eyed. I guess deep down, he really wanted to keep being the governor. Edel-sama, a report. The town of Manir has capitulated. The rebel leader, Reinl Schnegger, has taken their own life, at Novel bin Adat. I see. So, all of Schnegger's assets are fully mine now. Even after hearing the report from his subordinate, the expression on Marquis Edel Albert's look and Raoul's father's face didn't change a bit. The war against the Schnegger house was over and won, yet remnants of that noble house still kept fighting. But now that the last town used as a base has fallen, there was no one left to oppose Marquis Albert. Originally, there were 5 so-called superpowers in the country. Up-and-coming noble houses of Marquis Albert in the northeast and of Marquis Schnegger in the southeast. The old and established noble houses of Duke Kian in the northwest and of Duke Tay Leicester in the southwest. And, of course, the royal family in the heart of the country. However, things have changed since the Albert house has defeated the Schnegger house and absorbed the latter's assets. Duke Kian and Duke Tay Leicester were no longer enemies to be feared. And as for the royal family, the Albert house has become too big, too powerful for the royal to be able to control. A few days after Marquis Albert received the report, a messenger bearing a royal decree arrived. Lord Edel Albert, His Royal Majesty intends to award to you the title of Duke. In accordance to this, you are to journey to the royal palace at once. Perhaps because of his position as royal messenger, the said messenger spoke rather haughtily. I'm not interested. Excuse me? The messenger who expected the Marquis to be thrilled was stunned by the actual reply. After recovering, he shouted his thoughts. What are you saying? This is the highest possible honor you can have, and yet you're refusing it? At present, the only ones to hold the title of Duke were Duke Kian and Duke Tay Leicester. So, for a relatively young noble house to attain such a title, it was one for the history books of this kingdom. Like the messenger said, it was indeed one of highest possible honors. What kind of peerage can be given by a royal family who not only is being manipulated by corrupt court nobles but also has lost their sovereignty over their country? Granting a promotion to the Albert house was nothing more than a way for the royal family to announce to everyone that they still had the Albert house as their vassal. Lord Albert did not like that one bit. Why you? How dare you mock the royal family? HMP, do you think there's any reason left for me to fear the royal family? Just how long will you people delude yourselves into thinking you're still the ones at the top? Enough with your slights? The messenger was bright red in his fury. However, when Edel Albert stood up, just his intimidating presence was enough to overwhelm the messenger into falling down while letting slip an eep. Go back, and tell your incompetent king and his swine nobles this. I do not want to be duke, rather, I want to be king. Either they hand me the crown, or... Edel grabbed the messenger's hair and pulled it up to declare war. I'll attack the royal capital and get them acquainted with the underworld. A month after Raoul's army left. Luke Sama, please let us live here. Yeah, okay. Us too, please. Sure. Luke Sama? Oh okay. Since then, there was yet again an increase in the rate we were receiving immigrants. The main reason I could find was that the soldiers from Raoul's army have decided to move here, along with their families. I was so touched by Chief Luke's character, I immediately thought of moving here with my family. I also thought of those delicious food and drinks, and those dwellings. I'd like to offer whatever I can to help this new village grow further. I want to eat more minotaur meat slurp. This village's strong soldiers have left a deep impression on me. They've inspired me to get stronger myself. That toilet has left a great impression on me too. They were saying one thing, but I felt like they had other reasons at novel bin at. In addition to their families, the soldiers also apparently told people in their hometowns about this village. The soldiers were recruited from all over the Albert territory, so rumors about us spread even further. Not only did the capital now knew of us, even some of the most remote areas in the Albert territory did too. And thanks to that, another surge of immigrants came our way. In just a month since Raoul attacked, our population went from 10,000 villagers to 15,000. I feel like Raoul's gonna get mad again once he finds out we've never once paid any kind of tax to the Albert territory. If we were at a village level, it was nothing. However, with this growth, it was kind of hard to insist we were still at that level. You've passed that level ages ago. Such was the exasperated reply of former Governor Dant when I expressed my concern. I don't think there's any need for great concern, mainly because we won the battle. However, when my replacement as governor takes office, they might demand for some things. When that day comes, please leave the negotiations to me. It was truly reassuring to have Dant-san here. Well, then again, if he somehow was able to continue being the governor, things might be even easier. Hello, I am the new governor, Mitchell. It's a pleasure to meet you all. A very soft-spoken man appeared before the 10 staff members of the government office for the administration of the North. It seems like there's so few of you. Are there anyone else? And no, this is all of us. To be honest, a lot of us have decided to migrate to the city in the wasteland. The one to reply apologetically was the chief aide to the governor. I see. I assume that city's also the reason why Reason, which is supposed to be the largest city of the North, has become so deserted? That's exactly it. The county's administration is in quite a difficult spot at the moment due to the constant immigration of our citizens to that wasteland city. However, I believe that if we can incorporate that city into the North and then collect taxes from them. May I see the materials you have on that city? Here, sir? Mitchell scanned the documents handed over to him. Where are the people who conducted these investigations? About that, even on their first time to go there, the investigators immediately decided to resign from their post and move to that city. Ahaha, I've heard a little about that city. I guess it really is something. I've heard the previous governor even immigrated there. But are these data for real? It's just so unbelievable, but then again, if it's for real, that'd explain why so many want to move there. Mitchell then said all right while clapping his hands. Okay, how about we go to that city and introduce ourselves? Oh, and also negotiate? Yeah. Actually, my superiors have explicitly told me that under no circumstance was I to go that wasteland city. Finally, if we can convince them to join us, all our financial woes will be gone all at once. No, you have it the other way around. The other way around? Yeah. Mitchell nonchalantly told the perplexed chief aide this. We're not asking that city to join the North, we're going to ask them to let the North be part of their city. Pardon? Hello, I'm Mitchell, the new governor for the North. A pleasure to meet you. The new governor came to the village to pay his respects, at least that was what he said. He was quite friendly, though it might be better to say he was kind of a light-hearted person. Meanwhile, Dansanth, former governor, was beside me with a raised eyebrow. Well, I'm Luke, the chief of this village. Thank you for coming all this way. Oh, please sir, I don't know what I'll do if you humble yourself so. I am but a servant of House Albert. He should have knowledge that I was expelled out of our noble house, yet he still showed me respect as though I wasn't. That wasn't enough of a reason to let my guard down though. According to Dansan, the new governor was from a rather poor family. He wasn't in the army either. No, he rose up through the ranks because of his own work and management skills. In other words, he was a self-made man. Until recently, he served as the governor of a western county, but Dansan's removal from office prompted a transfer. Rather than being chosen by Raoul Sama, I think he was chosen by the group of retainers who remained in the capital to support Raoul Sama. I don't know much about him, but rumors about him all point to him being a capable person. My point is, he is capable enough to be entrusted the North in such a dire time, so don't let his demeanor fool you. Dansan whispered so to me. However, my villager appraisal skill told me he didn't have any vile ulterior motives. But, what a wonderful city you have here. It's pretty, lively, devoid of trash as well as vagabonds. Plus, I hear there's lots of delicious food, and public bathhouses that can be used at any time. Of course, there are those dwellings that your citizens can comfortably live in. It makes so much sense why people are immigrating here one after another. In all honesty, I too want to live in a city like this. Mitchell-san openly praised the village like that. Well then, let's get down to business, shall we? I have a proposal for you, Luke Sama at novel bin at. Mitchell-san suddenly started talking with a serious tone, and the air quickly became tense. This proposal, in all likelihood, was the real reason for his visit. While Dan-san gave me a look as though to say if he starts making stupid demands, leave the rest to me, Mitchell-san continued talking. I'd like to ask you to make the North a part of this city. As expected, we can't accept Dan-san reflexively refused, but then let out a baffled voice. Make the North a part of this city? Not make this city a part of the North? Ha ha ha. You are aware, of course, that this city's population, industry, and military might at this moment far exceeds that of Risen, the largest city in all of the North, yes? You might even say it's superior to all of the North combined. Given that, I don't think we're in a position to demand anything from city like this. And just so we're all on the same page, I've actually been told by my superiors to leave this city alone, meaning this proposal's my own. Mitchell-san said so and then smiled mischievously. As for the former governor, his face twitched wildly. A large number of the North's people have already immigrated here anyway, and there's no sign that that trend will subside anytime soon. If left unattended, there'll be no one left in the North. If that's the case, I'd rather we join your ranks sooner rather than later. But can you really make that decision on your own? So long as they don't find out, it's fine, right? Wah. Ignoring Dan-san who was at a loss for words, Mitchell-san smiled and proceeded to make requests. Is it possible to make the dwellings in your city back in Risen? And those fields where incredible crops can grow? And while I'm at it, would very much appreciate those public bathhouses. Stop spouting nonsense. Even with Luke Sama's gift, Risen's too far. Yeah, it's possible. The size of the village that is, the area where my village skills could be used in and not only the area where people lived was now larger than the whole North and I didn't seem to have any problem using my skills anywhere within it. Based on that, distance didn't seem to matter as long as it was within a part of the village. Of course, this move would also mean that I would be making all the citizens of the North my villagers. So, are you sure? TL notes, I guess by the way I translated the North, one can say that Mitchell had served as governor of the West. I think it's better to leave it as Western County until further context reveal otherwise. I stood outside of the village, looking down at the stone pavement stretching southward until the end of the wasteland. Mitchell-san had asked to incorporate the whole North into my village. As the person at fault for the continuous immigration of the North citizens, I felt like I couldn't ignore his plea. Of course, Mitchell-san would remain in charge of all government affairs of the North. I would remain as a simple village chief, and only build for them some facilities. In exchange for that though, I get to register the citizens of the North as my villagers. I see. So, you need these village points to build the so-called facilities, and you gain more points with more villagers. Yes. Don't worry though, there's nothing particularly disadvantageous about being a villager. For one, no one else but me can distinguish for certain who the villagers are. And if they really don't want to be a villager, it's possible to exclude them from being one. But if I had to be completely honest, there was a disadvantage to being a villager. Their personal information could be exposed to me through my villager appraisal skill, but no one has to know that. By the way, how did you know that my abilities could be used even in Risen? I just guessed it. You see, I heard a story that you suddenly appeared in the middle of where Raoul-sama's army was camping. I figured that was somehow thanks to your ability, and then I thought that if your ability can reach a place that far away from your village, maybe it can reach further away places. Mitchell-san not only believed what others would normally consider a tall tale, he even inferred details of my ability from it. Alright, let's begin with the road. Yeah, the road? This pretty cobblestone road was made using my facility construction skill. Road, a cobblestone road. Reduces fatigue and improves movement speed. In line with what the explanation text said, immigrants and merchants would often give praises such as awfully easy to traverse. The horse drawing our carriage somehow seems more energetic. But by using facility upgrade on it, the road's performance should even better. And so, I chose facility upgrade and paid the necessary points. I should be able to walk faster in the road now, right? Wah? Saying my body felt lighter than a feather somehow was an understatement rather than an exaggeration. I felt like I've only taken a few steps, yet I found myself having traveled several meters ahead. So fast? When I looked back, I was already so far away from Mitchell-san who was beside me just a moment ago. Luke-sama, wait P? Mitchell-san tried to come after me, but he ended up going past me. Thankfully, I upgraded only a small portion of the road. When he reached the end of that portion, Mitchell-san finally slowed down. This time, it was my turn to catch up. So, what do you think of me extending this road all the way to Risen? This road? Yup. With something like this, a day trip to and from Risen should be possible, right? A day trip. Together with the dumbfounded Mitchell-san, I continued walking toward Risen, upgrading the road along the way, of course. Oi, look there. Are those people running? At novel bin at? No, they're walking? Huh? There's no way someone's just walking at that speed. They are? People from the other end looked surprised when they spotted us, but when we walked past each other. What? Why am I suddenly walking so fast? What's going on? When those people stepped on the portion of the road that had been upgraded already, they walked fast themselves. Before long, we reached the end of the wasteland, as well as the end of the road I had constructed before. Okay, from here on, I'll be building new roads. This place is already under someone else's control. Would you like to take over? Asterisk yes no. Takeover complete. This place is now part of the village. Through territory takeover, I had incorporated this area into my village and could now extend the road. Look, the road's stretching toward us? Don't be absurd, how keen it is. While surprising and stunning the people we run into, we continued forward to Risen. And in just a few hours after we left the village, it's within sight now, we eventually reached Risen, the largest city in the north. I can't believe it, a day trip to and from Risen really is possible unless, of course, I'm just dreaming right now. And we're here. We really walked all the way to Risen on foot and we're not one bit tired. We finally made it to Risen, the north's largest city. It took about 3 hours to get here from the village, but that was while I was extending the road and upgrading it. If we were simply to travel from one point to the other, I suspect we would reach our destination in half the time. Moreover, thanks to the fatigue reduction effect, we weren't tired at all even after all that walking. At first thought, this seemed like it would speed up the immigration of people to the wasteland village, but this road might just do the opposite. Indeed, if people can come and go in such a short time, they're less likely to think of immigrating. Yup. Plus, if we set up carriages at fixed locations, people will be more capable of traveling between points. That's a great idea. Until now, people have been flowing almost exclusively toward the village. If we could also make them to go to and from Risen frequently, both territories should benefit economically. Turn the citizens of Risen into villagers? Asterisk yes no. The 9,531 citizens of Risen are now villagers. Like that, I gained a whole lot of villagers at once. Now then, what should I do? Before this, I was able to build facilities as I wanted. There originally was nothing in the wasteland, so I was free to build whatever I liked and put it wherever I wanted. Such wasn't the case with Risen though. Risen was a city rich in history, so even simple dwellings had some kind of significance, making it regrettable to destroy. Especially so when taking its place were the cold and utilitarian apartment buildings. I could expand the city and prepare a new residential area, but even that felt like it could mess with the city's landscape. Thankfully, so long as they were within the range of my gift, I could use facility customization and facility upgrade on buildings not made by my gift. And so, I decided to keep the current buildings in the city and only modify them. First, I should repair and restore the broken and filthy ones. From atop the tallest tower in the city, I began to use facility customization on the buildings below. This tower, by the way, have already been converted to have the features of an observation tower. Observation tower, tower made of sturdy stone that allows one to see further, greatly improves one's vision. Thanks to that effect, I could see even the tiny details of the buildings below. Naturally, even with this, I couldn't see through the buildings, so I had given up on trying to make adjustments to their interior. For the meantime, I'm more than content if I could make their outward appearance look great. The cities become so tidy in an instant. I decided to not react to the dumbfounded Mitchell-san's comment for now, and proceeded to improve the comfort, fragrance, security, and durability aspects of the buildings through facility customization. Phew, that should make them more comfortable to live in. I wanted to install toilets and baths in each home, but as to be expected, that's a bit hard to do. Can we go check out some buildings that I can use freely? Mitchell-san? Oh, why yes, of course, at Novel bin at. It was hard to tell which buildings were unoccupied, so I thought it would be faster to just ask Mitchell-san to tell me. After going down the tower, Mitchell-san guided me toward the city. Luke-sama, here is the first one. No one owns it, so feel free to use it however you want. Thank you. Then, I think I shall turn this one into a public lavatory. The inside really did become full of toilets. Let's go to the next one. That one is also unoccupied. It seems spacious, so let's turn this one into a public bathhouse. By customizing vacant buildings like that, I was able to install public lavatories and public bathhouses at various points throughout the city. I might not have been able to install baths and toilets at each home, but this should make up for that. Let's see. I guess we should check the roads in the city too. Maybe install hand-pumped water wells too. And then, I think I should build some ramparts. Like that, I spent the day remaking the city of Riesen. So tired. A person who worked at the government office here in Riesen was dead tired and was using the last of his strength to get back home. The reason he was this tired was because he ran all over the city in order to determine which buildings were unoccupied. His superior has told him it was the order of the new governor. Even ignoring today, my workloads increased so much lately because of the people that left. Maybe I should also resign and live in that rumored city in the wasteland. His co-workers at the government office have been resigning one after another so that they can follow after the former governor. And after not being impressed by the new governor, he himself have started to wonder if it was time to move as well. Wait, I'm here already? That's strange. He thought he walked quite slowly, yet before he knew it, he was near his house at Novel bin at. Is it just because I was lost in thought? No, that's not it. My body feels light. And what's with this road? Was it always this pretty? His head inclined, he continued walking forward until he spotted a line for something. This was the path he always took to go to work, so he knew there wasn't any store that could prompt a line such as that. Curious, he walked closer. Among the crowd was the familiar face of his wife. Dear, welcome back. What's the matter? Why do you look so tired? Never mind that. What's this line for? It's for the toilets. Toilets? He had no idea whatsoever of what his wife was talking about. And then, he noticed that the building they were lining up for was one of the unoccupied buildings in the city. They installed toilets that can be used by anyone throughout the city. You work at the government office, yet don't know about it? I'm just a grunt, how am I supposed to know? Ignoring his self-deprecating joke and laugh, his wife's eyes sparkled while she continued to talk. The toilets are amazing, dear. It washes your bottom clean for you? Bottom? Thanks to that, everyone's lining up for it. I've actually tried it before, and before I knew it, I'm lining up again. In fact, lots of us here have lined up more than once. Then, is that line for those toilet things too? In a nearby building that he was quite sure was determined earlier to be not in active use by anyone, people were also lining up. That one's for the baths, dear. The baths? Yes, and anyone can use it at any time as well? I haven't tried it before, but the wife next door told me it felt great. Let's try it later, okay? You're saying there's a public bathhouse now in the city? In Riesen, only a small number of people, mostly just the rich, have baths in their home. There was no public bathhouse either. Because of that, the common way for people to clean themselves was to gather water from the nearest well and wipe their body with a wet piece of cloth. As such, it took quite a bit of effort for them to get completely clean. Actually, one of the reasons why the rumor about the wasteland city was so popular was because of the part that talked about the city's splendid baths and bathhouses. I guess this is one way to reduce the number of people wanting to immigrate, but wait, when did this happen? I don't recall any construction or renovation around here, and there certainly haven't been any talk about this at the office. Both are vacant buildings. Don't tell me this is the reason why I've been ordered today to survey which houses are unoccupied. No, of course that's not it. Even though he was still wondering about it, he proceeded to go back home. But when he arrived, the house, it's suddenly so pretty. Their house was made of stone, and was built a century or so ago. Its outer walls had cracks, had its paint peeled off already, and were plastered with indelible graffiti. Yet now, it looked as though it was just built. It wasn't just their house either. The houses in front and at the side of their own looked completely brand new as well. How about the inside? What? Nothing's changed. When he hurried inside, what greeted him was the slightly dusty sight he was familiar with. The furniture and other furnishings inside remained the same as well. He felt a bit disappointed by that, but then he noticed something. The air, it's fresh. Normally, the entryway was filled with this strange odor, but now, it was completely filled with fresh air. When he closed his eyes, he felt as though he was standing in the meadows. Moreover, the inside of the house was previously quite humid, but it was now exceedingly pleasant. Just what is going on in this city? So this is the power of Luke-sama's gift. All I can do is laugh. No wonder the city in the wasteland was built within a year's time. Riesen was reborn in a blink of the eye. All of the buildings in the city, even those in the state of disrepair, looked as though they were built just today. And the many old and bumpy roads even became well paved and ridiculously easy to traverse for carriages. Grandma, look, I'm walking so fast. What are you talking about, Grandpa? You are? That was just a slope, and I didn't even break a sweat. Easy now, Grandpa, you might fall down. When he saw an elderly, hunched-over man walk like a young lad, Mitchell knew the roads weren't simply made well, they also had the same effect present in the road that connected Riesen with the wasteland city. Public lavatories and public bathhouses were also added to the city at various locations. What were unoccupied buildings just a while ago were turned into such useful facilities in an instant. Soon enough, no one would ever throw their wastes on the streets anymore. And if people and the city could be clean, the higher the city's defense against plagues would be. Even Risen's ancient walls and water wells were renewed. A mysterious contraption was added to each of the water wells, making it so that even children could easily draw water from it. As a bonus, because the wells had lids now, there was no longer a need to worry about people falling down the wells. In all honesty, I asked for help simply because why not, but never did I imagine that Luke-sama would do this much for you, and it hasn't even been a day. Mitchell made his appeal yesterday in the wasteland city, and by noon of today, this much work was done in the city. He was already in awe by all this, yet. Let's see, I guess I should work on the fields next. Upon hearing of Luke's intention on continuing on and improving the fields, Mitchell unintentionally muttered something out loud. If Marquis Albert knew of this power, I can't imagine he'd ever let go of it. After remaking the buildings within the city of Risen, I proceeded to improve, through facility upgrade, the fields around the city. Let's see faster crop growth, better crop quality, and improved work efficiency in the fields, also pesticide effects. The fields here might not yet be as good as the fields in the village, which have been improved multiple times, but at least now, these fields could produce more crops. It should be easier to work here too. Grandma, look, I'm working so fast. What are you talking about, Grandpa? You are? I'm doing field work, and I'm not even breaking a sweat. Easy now, Grandpa, you might fall down. The old couple there seemed to be pleased, at least. Farming's hard work, after all, and any help matters. Mitchell-san, I think we're done here. Oh, thank you for your hard work. Thanks to that, this city's become so pleasant to live in. I honestly don't know how to properly thank you. Don't worry about it. Besides, we still have more work to do. Both of us inclined our heads. Aren't we going to work on the whole north? Really? I mean, I did say that the whole north will join your city, but I thought you were going to improve only Ryazuna. Are you really going to improve the whole north? That's my intention, yes. I planned on doing the same things I have done in Risen to all the major cities and settlement in the north. Really? I'm very thankful, naturally, but improving all of the cities is going to take a lot of time and effort. But then again, you did do this much to Risen, the largest city in the north, in just a day. Then, I guess I should officially ask it if you don't mind. Luke-sama, will you also improve the other cities? I don't mind at all. Afterwards, I improved the roads that led to the other major cities and even built new ones when applicable. And then, upon reaching a city, I would do the same things I did for Risen. Of course, I also added the residents as my villagers each time. The result was that I was able to breach to 30,000 villagers mark in an instant. Congratulations! Because you now have more than 30,000 villagers, your village has become level 9. Congratulations! Because you now have more than 30,000 villagers, your village has become level 9. 30,000 village points have been acquired as level up bonus. You can now build more kinds of facilities. Maximum village area has been increased. The village skill 3D reposition has been acquired. By adding the residents of the north as my villagers, my village leveled up. The new facilities that I could build were as follows. Freezer, 100 PTS, a facility for keeping the temperature of things like food low, and thus preserving them. It's possible to adjust the temperature. Brothel, 200 PTS, a facility for sexual services. Has contraceptive effects. Has an effect that prevents the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases. Art gallery, 300 PTS, a facility for preserving and also exhibiting works of art. Prevents the deterioration of artworks. Has security features. Improves the villagers' artistic sensibilities at novel bin at. Office building, 400 PTS, a facility for office work. Has 10 floors. Improves work efficiency, productivity, and also fortune. Dam, 600 PTS, a facility for river management as well as irrigation. Automatically adjusts the volume of water. I feel like the scale of what I can build has gone up by a lot. In addition to those facilities, I also got 3D reposition, which was basically a superior reposition. Until now, I could only move facilities along the ground. For example, if I wanted to move an apartment building to the other side of a public bathhouse, there must be a route for the apartment building around the said public bathhouse. Through 3D reposition though, I could simply move the apartment building over the public bathhouse. Which is to say, the apartment building's going to be up in the air, right? I can tell, even by just imagining it, that that'll be a sight to behold. While making our way through the other major areas in the north. Floods? Why yes. Heavy rains can make the nearby river overflow and submerge this whole place. While a rain like that come only about once every decade, the fact remains that each time it happens, the village and the fields are devastated. I see. Sincerely expressing their troubles to Mitchell-san was a certain village chief. That village chief seemed to have come here when he was made aware that the new governor was coming to inspect the nearby area. Wow, it looks like a chance to build the facility I just acquired is here right away. I understand your concerns, I really do, but sorry Mr. Village Chief, the cost of building levees of that scale is swell, you know. It's nothing to worry about. Luke-sama, I can build a dam upstream. A dam? As though he didn't recognize the word, Mitchell-san tilted his head. Basically, it'll build something that will block off the water upstream and form a kind of lake. That facility can also discharge water downstream at a controlled rate. Like that, not only will it help in defending against floods, it'll also help in times of drought. That kind of thing's possible? I mean, I understand the theory, but to do it in that scale, surely, even Luke-sama will find it difficult. Just leave it to me. Why does he look so confident? At that point, the village chief from earlier timidly posed a question. Sir Governor, might I ask who that person is? Huh? Oh, did I not say already? Well, he is none other than Luke Albert-sama, son of Marquis Albert. Marquis Albert's son? The village chief then hurriedly knelt in place. There's no need for that. More importantly, may we ask you to guide us to the river? Oh, of course. Great. I'll build a road as we go. Huh? A road's being built on its own. After a while of traveling via carriage, I finally caught sight of the river. It was quite wide and imposing, making it easy to believe that it could submerge the area during a heavy enough rain. Oh, our village is on the other side. How do you cross the river? Mostly through boats. As you might expect, it's hard to build a bridge over a river like this. Is that so? Then, I'll build one for you. Bridge, a bridge made of reinforced concrete. Durable. Resistant to deterioration. It's possible to select the type and form of the bridge. In order for the bridge to withstand the surging of water, I planned on using facility upgrade to reinforce it further. Huh? Seeing a bridge suddenly appear in front of them out of nowhere, Mitchell-san and the village chief's jaws dropped. A bridge just like that. Mitchell-san said so in a daze. Luke-sama? You seem to be using your gift quite a lot, but don't you need points to make those buildings? I do, so building things isn't something I can do infinitely. Why yeah, exactly. But, you know, with the number of points I have now, I can build about 10,000 bridges like this one. 10,000? I had just obtained 300,000 village points as a level up bonus, after all. In addition, because I had over 30,000 villagers, I earned more 30,000 village points each day. Of course, I still had plenty of necessary things to use my points on, so I shouldn't waste it. I believed a dam here was among those necessary things. Oh, thank you so much, Luke-sama. This'll make crossing the river so much easier. The village chief said so while crying tears of joy. Apparently, Sahajins, which were merman type of monsters, were known to appear in this river. Each year, these Sahajins attack and slay people who were simply trying to cross the river. And because being in a small boat in this river was so dangerous, criminals were mostly the only ones tasked with rowing the boats. After traveling upstream, around here should be good, right? 600 village points will be consumed to build a dam. Proceed. Yes no. After I selected yes, a gigantic dam appeared. Ha, ha ha, my word, isn't this 10 times larger than what I imagined it would be? In front of the gigantic structure that suddenly appeared and stopped the flow of the river, Mitchell-san gave an awfully dry laugh. Even though it just appeared, the dam was already at half of its capacity. I wonder where all that water came from. Can it be that when it said that it automatically adjusts the volume of water, it didn't mean that it regulates the amount it takes and discharges, but rather that it actually materializes and dematerializes water? If that was true, no matter how much it rained, the dam would never ever get full. As absurd as that was, I couldn't rule it out as impossible. After all, there seemed to be an endless supply of water from the water wells, houses, and the like. In addition, by using facility customization on a moat, I could make the water in it disappear instantly. Village chief, this should make it so that you won't be troubled by floods anymore. Thank you so much. The village chief went down on his knees as though he was worshipping something and then expressed his gratitude. At that time though, something made the nearby shrubs rustle. When I turned to look, I saw the figure of a bear nearly 2 meters tall. As though it was thirsting for blood, saliva dripped from its sharp fangs. It probably caught our scent and decided to emerge from the deep forest. Monster? A blood grizzly? Those shouts came from the Mitchell-san soldiers who were accompanying us. It's a dangerous monster. We alone might not be enough to. Run while you still can. No, don't worry, everything's going to be alright. Luke-sama? Ignoring the frightened soldiers for now, I went closer to the bear. When it leapt at me, I constructed a stone wall. It crashed headfirst into that wall. I then reshaped that wall into a golem through facility customization and made it hit the stunned bear. Kyun. Almost like it understood that it had no chance of winning, it escaped back into the woods while wobbling. Golem? Is that yours, Luke-sama? Yup. It's, let's say, an advanced application of my gift. Thanks to that, I can drive away monsters of that level. Doesn't that make his gift not only powerful but also very versatile? I think that's about it. I had added the entire north to my village, made its citizens my villagers, and linked major areas together. Due to the surprising number of requests for dams and bridges, it took longer than expected, but what matters was that life in the north should be a tiny bit more comfortable now. That said, this just barely covers the absolute basics, so if you think up of something else, feel free to contact me. Thank you so much. In the end, even Mitchell-san thanked me as though he was worshipping something at Novel bin at. As summer approached, the temperature steadily rose. Needless to say, this wasteland was quite a harsh environment, but more so in the summer and in the winter. The summers here were scorching hot and the winters freezing cold. It was quite a different story indoors though. After all, in a large house, temperature and humidity were always kept at comfortable levels. The apartment buildings also had this feature, of course, so villagers were commenting something along the lines of "It's summer already, but it's still so pleasant here." Nevertheless, the temperature outdoors remained an issue. As such, I have been receiving plenty of requests for ways to cool down, especially from farmers and other folks whose jobs required them to be outdoors. That's why I've been thinking of building a swimming pool. A swimming pool? I've never heard of that. Staring blankly at me were Milia and Selen. I then explained what a pool was. It's a facility where you can play in the water. You know, to dive in, swim in, or just floating around. So, kind of like a man-made river? Philia-san asked me that while tilting her head. Pretty much, but well, I think it's better to just show you. We then headed to a vacant spot in the village. I wanted to make a pool, but unfortunately, pool wasn't in the list of facilities I could directly make with my gift. So, to make one, I planned on using a canal. A canal made of stone. Automatically cleans itself, preventing the accumulation of trash and sludge. The water within was supposedly clean, so there should be no problem in swimming in it. After building one, I made it stretch and then made it bend until its endpoints touched each other. In other words, I made it form a large circle. I intentionally left the wall separating the endpoints still standing though. Alright, I'll just slowly move this wall. When I gently pushed the wall, the water began moving along with it. Before long, the water in the canal loop flowed like a river. Yes, I made a lazy river pool. You really did make an artificial river. Amazing. This'll make cooling down so much fun. Impressive as always, Luke-sama. I planned on making this pool open to the public, but for the sake of safety, I thought it best to have a small number of people try it out first. We should probably undress, right? But how much? We're outdoors, so being fully naked like at a public bathhouse won't dash old we get dressed down to our underwear? Actually, I have something. What I took out were clothes made with special fabric that were elastic and quick drying at novel bin at. The texture's nice, isn't it? And it's so stretchy. I've never seen anything like this before. I've had it made in the clothing workshop. Workshop, a workplace that can be used for things like fine arts, industrial arts, blacksmithing, and dressmaking. Improves one's creativity as well as one's skills. One of the workshops I built specialized in making clothes. Recently, thanks to their excellent quality, the clothes made there have been really selling well in the village. It was a hit particularly among the women. And to that clothing workshop, I made a request to design and make clothes exclusively for swimming, the so-called swimsuits. At least in the Sealess Albert territory, these swimsuits should be the first of their kind. Are these your idea, Luke-sama? You're so amazing. I doubt any of us would have thought of it. It's all due to the knowledge my previous life had though. There are so many kinds. A lot of them's got cute designs too. It's so hard to choose. Asterisk, some are so revealing. Are those for me, Luke-sama? Phew, then so be it. I'll use those to charm you. Asterisk. I then built some sheds so that Milia and the rest had a place to change in. By the way, I left all the design choices to the craftsmen in the workshop. Not once did I tell them to make ones that had hardly any fabric, yet here those designs were. How about you, Philia-san? There's some for men too. I don't. No need to hold back. Look, Philia-san's going for a swim too. What's she got to do with anything? If your face is going to get that red that quickly, everyone'll know, you know. Philia-san? What are you doing? Going for a swim. Standing by the poolside and tilting her head was an elf. A stark naked elf. Oh no, so much blood's coming out of Philia-san's nose. TL note, as stated in list of revisions, Luke now has knowledge of things about our world but not personal memories. I believe this has been in effect since the first volume of the light novel. I can see a guard no, I see, I must be in heaven right no wa, haha at novel bin at. Philia-san, are you alright? You're not in heaven yet, you're still alive? After seeing a naked Philia-san, Philia-san had a tremendous nosebleed and fell down. The gush of blood seemed to be because of excessive stimulation. See chief? Where am? Oh thank goodness, you've returned to us. Perhaps due to my desperate pleas for him to return to the side of the living, Philia-san's eyes became a bit more focused. Even so, he was ghastly pale from all the blood he lost. Philia-san, are you alright? At that moment, the person that caused all this, of all people, approached. She was still stark naked, of course. Wah, he's spurting out blood again. Philia-san, sorry but stay away for now, and please, put on some clothes. Wear something, anything, else, Philia-san will die. I made the bewildered Philia-san step back, and then forcibly made Philia-san drink down a potion. The river I should cross it, I guess ahaha. No matter what, don't cross that river. Village chief? What's going on? Somehow, it seemed like Philia-san has escaped death. Had he met his end here, I had no idea how to explain it to Count Bazureta, his father. He seemed to have no recollection of what happened though. Luke Dono, I've dressed myself now. Likely because I got angry earlier, Philia-san said so timidly. Why do I feel like I saw something truly shocking earlier? No, you didn't see anything? So, don't think about it, alright? Albeit in a panic, I managed to put an end to that. Just when I did, Selin and the others have come out of the sheds after changing their clothes. It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? Yes, I see what you mean. It is quite embarrassing for your swimming clothes to be so tight that it's making it more obvious how small your breasts are, isn't it? I wasn't talking about my breasts. Selin was wearing a one-piece swimsuit that was as vividly blue as her hair. A one-piece swimsuit, as its name implies, was swimsuit for women that consisted of a singular, continuous material. As for Milia, she chose a bikini-type swimsuit, a swimsuit for women that had a material for the top and a separate one for the bottom part of the body. Her bikini was black, just like her hair. Perhaps the more important detail though was that her swimsuit was so small that her breasts were about to spill out. I would normally have been shocked by that, but given that I saw a naked body just a while ago. Phew. Luke-sama's looking at me. He must be filled with excitement now. Well, anyway, I should probably get changed myself. Oh, Philia-san, you're going to wear a swimsuit that's like what Selin is wearing, right? That looks like it'll make swimming harder though. I'd like it to be like Milia Dano's, at least. Like what Selin is wearing, am I right? Oh okay. You're so frightening, Luke Dano. A life was at stake, so I didn't mind being a bit tyrannical. Luke-sama, you should wear the she. No way. What Milia presented was a speedo, a swimwear for men which provided the absolute minimum cover. I refused to wear them, and chose some shorts instead. Silius Gunn wore the same kind. What did I see, Arg? I can't remember at all. I'm telling you, you didn't see anything? So, don't worry about it and just swim. While I was a bit worried about his condition, I still thought it would be better for him to move around so that he wouldn't remember anything unnecessary. At any rate, I took the initiative and dove into the water. It's a bit cold, but it feels great. By the way, I had used facility customization to alter the depth of the pool. For the outer edges of the pool, I set it to be at 1 meter deep, and for the inner edges, I set it to be 1.2 meters deep. Even in the deep part, I could still stick my face out of the water, although just barely. If I made it any deeper, the pool would be hard to use for anyone of the same height as me or lower. I guess we should make some lifebuoys. Or maybe some kickboards. Oh, I guess I should add some slides later on. That'll make things more fun. I thought of things like that while doing a front crawl. I've never seen anyone swim the way you're doing it. Huh? You mean, you don't know about the front crawl? I don't. Me neither. It's also not taught in military swimming exercises. It seemed like the front crawl wasn't a well-known way to swim in this world. Milia, who couldn't swim aside, Selin and Silius Gunn did breaststrokes. It's faster to swim this way, I'd say. If you'd like, I can teach you how to do it. Not that there was any need to swim quickly at the moment. Especially since this was a lazy river pool. That way of swimming kind of resembles the method that's been passed down to us by our ancestors. The way you're moving your feet is different though. It's also my first time seeing that. Philia-san, now wearing proper swimwear, appeared by the poolside and commented so. The swimsuit she wore was a high-cut one-piece, so it was little concerning, but it was 1,000 times preferable than just being naked. I'm sure even Silius Gunn'll still knew. Despite the incident that dyed the pool's water red, the fact remains that we have managed to build a new recreational facility. Factoring in the summer's heat, it was definitely popular among the villagers. I had anticipated the requests for a pool where even small children could play in, so I also built a shallow one. The thought of making heated pools when winter arrives has also crossed my mind. I was getting ahead of myself though. Other than the pool, summer-related food has grown in popularity as well. A great example were the gigantic watermelons harvested in the village's orchards. And thanks to being preserved in a refrigeration facility, these watermelons could almost always be eaten cold. Refrigerator, a facility for keeping the temperature of things like food low, and thus preserving them. It's possible to adjust the temperature. I obtained the ability to build a refrigerator when my village level became 9. In terms of default physical size, a refrigerator was as big as a storehouse. Because temperature inside the facility could be changed depending on the occasion, it could also be used as a freezer. This watermelon's so sweet, so juicy, and so delicious. Selin said so while the corners of her mouth were drenched with the watermelon's red juices. If I can have just one of the seeds that Luke-sama spat out For some reason, Milia hasn't eaten a single bite out of the watermelon piece she had in her hand. Does she not like watermelons? At that moment, a certain game came to my mind. Do you guys know about watermelon splitting? What's that? I've never heard of it before. Selin replied so with a blank look on her face. It's a game where you have to smash a watermelon with a stick while blindfolded, making you needing to rely on hints that others will be giving you. Oh, sounds fun. Selin replied so, sounding interested. Okay, let's do it. Like that, we blindfolded Selin. I placed a watermelon about 20 meters away, and then went a bit closer before shouting. I did so in order to avoid giving away the location of the watermelon. The watermelon has been set. On my signal, Selin drew out the 2 swords hanging from her hips. Hey, those are real swords. That's dangerous? It's fine. I'm used to this. Even if she says she's used to it, the fact remains that it's dangerous to hold real swords while blindfolded. However, contrary to my worries, Selin walked directly toward the watermelon without a trace of hesitation. It was as though she wasn't blindfolded at all. And then, you smashed, or rather, cut the watermelon so cleanly. Nothing to it. How were you so sure of where the watermelon was though? I sensed it. You sensed where it was? Maybe she was just pretending that her eyes were covered and could actually see perfectly? That looks like fun. Philia-san, who had watermelon seeds around her mouth, said so as she approached. I see, so that's watermelon splitting, huh? May I give it a go? Sure. Hey, race a stick you can use. No, I think you'll use this. She said so while holding up a bow. Wait, hey, that's so dangerous. There's no need to worry. Like that, a blindfolded Philia-san confidently drew her bow and let her arrow fly. In the next moment, the arrow pierced the watermelon that was 50 meters away right in the center. How did you do that? It's easy if you search for the watermelon's presence. What does search for the watermelon's presence even mean? At any rate, watermelon splitting soon became another hit in the village. Curiously, the villagers have begun competing among themselves to see who could split watermelons in the flashiest way possible. In another attempt, Selen managed to slice a great number of watermelons floating in the pool in an instant at Novel bin at. Philia-san also tried again, this time shooting an arrow through a watermelon that was a kilometer away. Of course, it wasn't just the two of them who tried. The spearman Rando-kun demonstrated a technique that was able to skewer 10 watermelons seemingly all at once. The strongman Goat-san simply swung his hand down toward the ground, and the watermelon nearby was smashed by the shockwave that emerged from his chop. The adventurer Hazuna-san used fire magic to slice a watermelon in half. It was extremely hard to hold the flames back from burning the watermelon to ashes. Or so Hazuna-san said after she succeeded. Also, Manta-san from Mao village boasted that he could split a watermelon with his thing and proceeded to undress. Understandably, the guards arrested him for that. Thanks to Max-san, Manta-san's father, pleading for him, it was decided that Manta-san's punishment would only be to enter a rehabilitation facility for a while. Contrary to my expectations of this being a one-time only event, watermelon splitting has already become so synonymous with summer for many of the villagers that most of them were saying that they would like to do it again in the years to come. But can it still be called watermelon splitting at this point? Luke-sama, my child was born safely. It's a healthy baby boy. Delivering such a report while carrying an adorable and peacefully sleeping baby in his arms was Belrith-san. Wow, congratulations. And standing close and happy besides Belrith-san was his wife. And not only my son but also my wife is safe and in good health. It's all thanks to the clinic you built, village chief. This is my third time giving birth, but by far, this has been the least painful labor I've had. Well, I'm glad to hear it helped. Clinic, a facility for diagnosing and treating the sick and the wounded. Reduces the patient's pain. Also improves the potency of medical procedures. Given the result this time, it would definitely be better to have the pregnant women give birth in the clinic I built than elsewhere. Have you decided on what his name is? About that I'd like it if you were the one to name him. Huh? Me? Yes. Just by being named by you, I'm certain this child's future's going to be full of joy. Well, I don't mind, but it's such a big responsibility. What if I end up naming him something weird and his friends make fun of him for it for the rest of his life? Let's see, since he's a boy. In order to avoid that fate, I racked my brain to come up with a good name. While I was deep in thought, the couple looked at me with great expectations. Even the baby woke up and looked at me with his round and cute eyes. The pressure was so much, it felt hard to speak. How about Belk, Baraku? Oh, did you perhaps name him after me, Barurito? Not just you, dear? Don't you see? The latter part, the Ruka part, it came from Luke-sama's own name. You're right. What an absolutely wonderful name you've given him, village chief. There can't be any doubt about it now, dear. Our son will grow up into a splendid adult, just like our village chief. Sorry to disappoint you, but my thought process wasn't anywhere that deep. I just thought of what will sound good with the bell from Belrith-san's name. It's just by coincidence that my name's gotten mixed in. Well, as long as they're happy about it, I guess. Afterwards, other couples who also wanted me to name their children came. I had no reason to refuse their requests, resulting in me struggling to come up with good names each time. To be honest, there have been a lot of childbirths lately and many more we're still expecting. After all, having secured their basic needs when they moved into this village, many married couples have tried to conceive throughout autumn and winter. Given that, it might be prudent to change my strategy. Instead of coming up with names on the spot, I thought I should come up with a few names beforehand and have the couple choose from those at Novel bin at. And then, on a certain day, a certain couple came to me with a request. Chief Luke, if it's at all possible, can you build a place where couples can have some private time? We have children at home, you see, so it's a bit hard to have some time alone there. I see, right. Agreeing that this was certainly an important issue, I recalled a facility that I became able to build when the village became level 8. Hotel, a facility that mainly provides accommodations and relaxation services. It can be used for multiple purposes depending on the configuration. I'm intrigued by the latter part of the explanation. When I looked at its list of abilities that could be improved with facility upgrade, I saw things like stamina boost and STD prevention. In other words, if I so wanted, I could make that kind of hotel. When I built one, its default outward appearance looked like a regular hotel. If I kept it like that, there would inevitably be people who would enter after mistaking it for a regular hotel. On the other hand, if I made its outer appearance reflect what it really was, well, it would stand out too much. Oh, well, there'll be no problem if it's in the underground, right? By using 3D reposition, I could move it as it was underground. Zoo. The sight of a large building disappearing into the ground was quite a sight to behold. I then built an underground tunnel and connected it to the entrance of the said hotel. If I added some restaurants along the underground tunnel, maybe even turning the tunnel into some kind of entertainment district, people wanting to use the hotel should be able to do so without attracting attention for going this way. Hey, have you tried that hotel yet? Hotel? Yay, Luke-sama built it recently. Oh, that. No, I haven't tried it. We don't have children yet, so we have enough space at home. I still think you should give it a try. That hotel's magnificent, you see. Just between us, no matter how hard I try, it's so hard to get my husband in the mood for that. But the moment we enter that place, why, he was raring to go. It's actually the first time I've seen his thing get that big. It almost frightened me. Huh? For real? At novel bin at. For real? Plus, according to my neighbor, she and her husband went for a lot more rounds than they usually do. How amazing. That's not all. It seems like it also heightens the arousal of women to blush. Gulp. Ever since we went, my married life has gotten far better. I'm certain that even a marriage in a rough patch will become as lovey-dovey as newlyweds. Well go. Please tell me more about this placey. Milia-sama? I can't believe there's an establishment like that. Oh no, I cut in on their conversation. I didn't even mean to eavesdrop, I just overheard them by chance. Are you perhaps not aware? In the underground district that Luke-sama built recently. It's in there? Thank you so much. Ah, Milia-sama, she's gone. Having obtained additional information from the two, I sprinted off to the said underground district. The stairway that led down to it was in an inconspicuous place not far from the center of the village. When I descended the stairway, what greeted me were taverns on both sides of the underground tunnel. After walking for a while, I found an entrance to a place that gave off a different vibe from the taverns nearby. Oi, why did you bring me to a place like this? Don't think about it, just follow me. A couple from behind were having some kind of quarrel. They seemed to be husband and wife, but they weren't exactly in the greatest of terms. Both looked like they were in their late 30s. When they reached the entrance to the hotel, the husband seemed to realize what was going on. This place is it that. It's fine once in a while, right? I mean, you've been so cold lately. Nope, we're going home. What? The husband turned around and started to walk away, but the wife suddenly grabbed him by the scruff of his neck. Where are you going? Hey, let go of me, woman. Why do you dislike me so much now? You used to love me like crazy when we were young though. Because you were thin back then? Look at you now, you've swelled so much. It's like you're a whole other person now. And you've only gotten fatter since we arrived in the village? While I think the husband said some terribly mean words, he wasn't exactly exaggerating. The wife could be said to be overweight. Her body was about twice as big as her husband's. The wife's arm wasn't just thick though, they seemed to have some strength to them. So, try as the husband might, he couldn't escape. The wife was even capable of dragging the husband to the inside of the hotel. But simply because she dragged him in there, doesn't mean. The moment they took a step in though, the husband's attitude took a quick turn around. Why you know what tight has been a while, hasn't it? I say, why not? Oh, darling? Why you're crushing me? From that moment on until they disappeared into the hotel, they acted like a perfectly happy couple. As long as I can get him here, even Luke-sama go fu. Huh? When I randomly looked at the map that I could use when I first received my gift, I noticed a red dot was so close to me. A black dot on the map meant an ordinary villager, but a red dot meant a hostile individual. When I hovered the cursor over it, a text saying pervert showed up. Pervert? What does that mean? No, more importantly, that red dot's headed this way, isn't it? Hail Yuxamakure to come for a walk with me? Huh, Milia? Huh? When I turned around, what I saw was an out-of-breath Milia. What? It's Milia. I was worried because a red dot was quickly on its way toward me, but it turned out to be just hurt off something felt off about her. Hail Yuxamakure to come for a walk with me? A walk? Few foot's alright, there's nothing to be afraid of. Nope, no matter how I look at it, you're being scary right now. Scared by the ominous smile on Milia's face, I unconsciously took a step back. Because she has been devoted since her time serving as a maid, I had faith that she wouldn't harm me. That said, all my instincts at this moment were sounding an alarm. What seems to be the matter? Come on, let's go for a walk. I knew it. She is acting strange. In the first place, it was strange that the dot that represented her in my map was not only red, it also said pervert. Is it possible that the person before me is someone else, only pretending to be her? When I realized that possibility, I quickly used villager appraisal. Name, Milia. Age, 23 years old. Village bond level, ultra high. Suitable occupation, priest. Gift, oracle. Nope, it is her. But then, why is she acting like this? The base version of villager appraisal couldn't tell me about it, so I thought maybe villager appraisal too could. However, by using that, I might see other things that I didn't want to see. Maid breathing first form. Did you call for me, master? She was able to shorten the distance between us in an instant? Since when can Milia move this fast? Let me explain. Maid breathing first form, did you call for me, master, is a breathing technique unique to maids that allows us to move several times faster than normal so that we can quickly come to our master's side. She explained. No, wait, more importantly, a breathing technique unique to maids? Maid breathing second form. I'll carry you, master. Whoa, she lifted me up? I didn't know Milia had this much strength. Let me explain. Maid breathing second form, I'll carry you, master, is a breathing technique unique to maids that allows us to have more strength several times than normal so that we can easily carry our masters. Thanks for the explanation, but I still don't understand what you're saying. Don't worry, Luke-sama. I'll be better soon. Fufu. Hi, while carrying me like that, Milia brought me somewhere else. This is bad. Somebody, help. There are two ladies there? Help? Milia's abducting me? Oh my, they get along so well. Yufufu, how I envy them. It's not like that. I'm seriously being abducted here. She's taking me somewhere dangerous? Help? Oh my, I wish a handsome prince will carry me away to someplace dangerous as well. Yufufu, how lovely. These two aren't of any help. Thanks for your hard work today, village chief. You're going on a date with Milia-sama today? I'm so jealous. Next, we passed by two men. In what way can being carried away by Milia look like a date to them though? More importantly. Help? Milia's forcibly taking me somewhere, at novel bin at. Forcibly, you say gulp. He's so young, but he's already doing those kinds of play. You're so amazing, village chief. It's not like that. I'm seriously asking for help here. I too want an older woman teach me stuff. At our age though, that's no longer possible. Yeah, these two aren't of any help either. And so, Milia continued carrying me like that. After a while we reached the underground restaurant district that I built recently. However, the whole district was just to misdirect the attention from a hotel of a certain kind. Not long afterward, Milia stopped after reaching the entrance of that hotel. She finally put me down, but she quickly and firmly grabbed hold of my hand to prevent me from escaping. Ha now, Luke-sama, let us enter together. Wait a minute, Milia. This hotel's. Let's bravely ascend the stairway to adulthood? Milia interrupted me like that before I could finish my own words. However, in the next moment, an employee stood in her way. My apologies, but individuals under 16 years of age are not allowed within. Like that, Milia collapsed into the ground. I traveled to the barn located at the edge of the village. Chief Luke? Thanks for all the hard work? Thanks for all the hard work too, Naruro. How are the animals? They're all in good health? Naruro had the heart of the animal's gift. As such, she was made in charge of the village's farm animals. At the moment, we were keeping cows, sheep, and chicken. The milk and eggs we get from them were absolutely delicious, making those some of the village's hidden specialty products. Moo, me, bwak. They're so adorable. These ones have just been born. But wow, Chief Luke, they're already forming a bond with you? But aren't there too many newborns? How many adult ones do we have again? At the moment, approximately 200 cows, 500 chickens, 100 sheep, 50 horses, and about 50 other livestock? We have that many? We originally purchased about 10 animals from the Brooklyn-san the merchant. We did get new young ones as time passed, but the majority of the animals we had were born here. Animal barn, a shed for the use of livestock. It speeds up their growth, preserves their health, and strengthens their reproductive abilities. So, it really is because of the animal barn's effects. But considering the demand for milk and eggs, do we have enough? Our livestock might have grown in numbers, but so did the population of the village. I was worried our supply of milk and eggs were not enough, and yet, even now, I haven't heard of any kind of shortage of it. Oh, well, to answer that, let's go over there, toward the pasture. We had set up a vast pasture next to the barn area. Well, it became a pasture, but since pasture wasn't among the list of facilities I could build with my gift, I had to improvise with a public park. Public park, an area where villagers can relax and do some recreational activities. Preserves the villagers' health and also improves their village bond level. I used facility customization on it to increase the green tract of land until it turned a pasture. It wasn't that far off from being a nature park, to be honest. All of a sudden, along with a thunderous roar, a gigantic figure appeared. In reaction, I instinctively took a step back. Monster? Nope. It's one of our cows. Huh? That's a cow? When I looked closer, it was indeed a cow. However, it was a cow that was easily more than 3 meters tall and 5 meters long. Suffice it to say, it was in a different league than the cows I was familiar with. It was no wonder I mistook it for a monster. This child is born here in the village? It's grown quite big, hasn't it? Grown big was definitely an understatement. So, is that one also a milk cow? Yup. How could it have grown this big though? More surprisingly though, there wasn't just one gigantic cow. Looking around, I found all the cows there were equally gigantic. As you can see, despite their size, they're all so meek and docile. But more importantly, these cows give so much milk. It made sense that cows that big would produce lots of milk. And if there were 200 or so of these cows, the village's demand for milk should be well satisfied. Just to be sure, the males still don't produce milk, right? Yup, but for some reason, nothing but female cows are being born right now. Is that so? Upon inspecting the cows leisurely grazing in the pasture a bit more carefully, I confirmed that most of them had large udders. I didn't know much about farm animals, but even I could tell that these cows were female. That solves the mystery of where the supply of milk comes from. But what about the bwak? Right at that moment, an ostrich-like chicken passed in front me at novel bin at. That chickens born in the village as well? You mean I'm not just imagining that? Much like the cows, the chickens born and raised here seemed to be much larger than usual. Before long, other 2-meter-tall chickens were energetically running all over the pasture. These chickens lay a lot of eggs? Perfect timing? Look over there. I looked where she was pointing and saw one chicken ready to lay an egg. Huh? Her egg size is normal? I was expecting its egg to be as big as an ostrich egg, so I was a bit let down to see that its egg was not much bigger than a normal chicken's egg, if at all. In the next moment though, pop 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 asterisk. Eggs came out of the gigantic chicken one after the other. Each chicken lays about 50 eggs per day. It's the type to make up with numbers? Bok. Meeh. Even the sheep are big. So fluffy too. Which means we can get a lot of wool. Hyein. The horses too. All of them are so strong. And despite their size, they're super fast. I soon found out that, much like the cows and the chickens, our sheep and horses were also so much bigger than usual. Obviously, our farm animals were originally normal-sized. However, after living within our animal barns for some time, they grew in size. Wait, maybe I can grow taller too if I spend some time here. You're not livestock though, so I doubt it'll work. Besides, I think it's better you're small and cute like that, village chief. Well, I don't. I was already 13 years old. This should be when my growth spurt starts, yet. More importantly, I'll greatly appreciate it if you can add another barn. How is that more important to me? Considering their birth rate, we'd soon have nowhere to put the newborns. Yeah, there were really so many young ones earlier. This was likely brought about by the barn's effect on the animals' reproductive abilities, but even so, this growth in their numbers was truly tremendous. Aside from that, their size especially when they reach adulthood made space inside the barns even more scarce. Okay, I'll add 10 more barns. I guess I should also expand the pasture, don't I? Thanks. While we're in the topic of newborns. What is it? It's Trichan. It's about to give birth. Excuse me, by Trichan is she talking about the tree dragon? Together with Naruro, I went to a field where, instead of crops, there was a gigantic tree. From afar, it might look a perfectly normal, albeit gigantic, tree. However, upon a closer look, it would become apparent that a part of the trunk greatly resembled the head of a dragon. Yes, this field was the one exclusively used by the tree dragon. When we drew near, it began to move as though it recognized us. Trichan? Have you been well? As though urging Naruro to hug its snout, the tree dragon presented its head to her. Naruro was, of course, happy to indulge. This made the tree dragon so happy, it began swinging its tail like branch left and right. By the way, the tree dragon didn't have a name before, but after Naruro began calling it Trichan, it kind of stuck and everyone also began to use the name. The person, or rather, the tree itself seemed to be pleased with it, so I didn't see any reason to change the way things were at Novel Bin at. Look around, village chief. There are small trees growing here now. Yay, you're right. When Naruro said so, I noticed the trees growing here and there. They varied in size. Some were just sprouting, while some have grown to be as tall as I was. Are these ordinary trees? Unlike the tree dragon, I could not find a dragon-like head anywhere. Look at this. Naruro said so and approached one of the larger saplings. It then began swaying. It's moving. After a moment, it didn't just shake its trunk and branches in place, it actually moved forward. They're apparently almost indistinguishable from treants. Until they become adults, that is. Oh, I see. Whoa, wait, why is it wrapping its branches around me? The sapling that approached started to wrap their branches around my feet and my torso. It's just playing around. Playing around? It kinda hurts though. Rather than being embraced, it felt more like I was being constricted. Because of that, I became unable to move. Help. It let go. As though it reprimanded the sapling, the tree dragon swung one of its branches at the sapling. Soon after, the sapling let me go. At the very least, it seems to listen to its parent. What a good kid. I don't know if that's what I'll call a good kid. At any rate, there were nearly 20 saplings at the moment. It was possible there would be more soon, and if each one grows to be as big as their parent. TL note, there has been a name change. The adventurer Del is now named Dill, and the adventurer Kamui is now named Guy. I'm Alec, an adventurer. At present, I have made the recently built village in the wasteland my base of operations. It's called a village, but to be frank, it was on the same scale as a metropolis. When we first arrived here, it could somehow still pass as a stopover town, albeit a very prosperous one. However, in the extremely short time since then, its population has grown and its infrastructures have increased tremendously to the point that it was hard to believe this place was originally a wasteland. And it was all thanks to its village chief and his powers. I, myself, have nothing but gratitude for Chief Luke. If not for this village, I and my party would never have gotten our gifts. It was thanks to our gifts that we could obtain so much more items and materials from the dungeon that was in this village than ever before. We used the money we got from that to upgrade our equipment. And what an upgrade it was. Each piece we bought was made by the dwarves of this village, meaning it was guaranteed to have great quality. Finding equipment like this would be hard even in the royal capital at Novel Bin at. After some while, as the rumors of this place spread further, many other adventurers arrived in the village. To make purchasing items and materials from us easier, Luke Sama decided to establish a certain organization. Yes, it was the first ever Adventurers Guild in the country. In this Adventurers Guild, parties were assigned a rank based on their achievements. Novice parties start at E, and climb up to D, C, B, and A as they progress. At present, our party was the only party to be awarded a rank. Oi, aren't they that a rank party? Crimson, I believe they're called. Yay, you're right. I heard they broke the record again for the deepest floor reached in the dungeon. When I overheard those comments, I unconsciously smiled. Hey, stop it, your face looks weird. Why are grinning like that? Anyway, you say that, Hazena, but you're also grinning from ear to ear, you know. No, I'm not. We needed to have a name for our party in order to register at the guild, and Crimson was the name that our party agreed on. It has since become well known by other adventurers. To be honest, before coming to this village, I never would have imagined that I would be the center of attention, especially at my age of 38 years old. Famito mice unnecessary. I feel the same. The voices around you are nothing but noise. Rid yourselves of your worldly desires, and simply follow the path to where you need to go. Spouting such stoic words were Dill and Guy, the other members of our party. Dill was a hunter who excelled at locating enemies, stealth, and other such things. As for Guy, he was a warrior monk who could not only heal us but was also proficient in fighting with a staff. Based on those words, it would have been understandable to think of the two as upstanding adventurers. I knew better though. I knew that both of them would always go to a bar and have multiple women entertain them, all while they ogled at those women with malicious eyes. At any rate, while most adventurers were active only on the first few floors of the dungeon, we have been devoting ourselves to clearing the deepest floors. Dungeons expand over time. It normally happens little by little though. In the village's dungeon, however, it was happening at quite a quick pace. When we first arrived here, the dungeon had 5 floors, but it now had more than 20. As for why we do it, well, why not? We had obtained gifts, so we thought we should aim for as high as a goal as we could. The risks were higher, yes, but it was well worth it to us so far. We were planning to go deep into the dungeon today as well. Kamuro, we're in your expert hands again today. Hey, yeah, leave things to me. In order to clear the dungeon, we have employed Kamuro, a villager who possessed the labyrinth exploration gift. His participation always made a great deal of difference in exploring the dungeon, and because of that, many other parties naturally also wanted his help. For some reason though, he seemed to give scheduling preference to our party. You're always such a great help. It might be unexplored as of yet, but I know the place like the back of my hand already, so rest easy while I'm here. It might be just my imagination, but can it be that he's interested in Hazena? Kamuro was 38 years old like me. Meanwhile, Hazena was just 18 years old. Moreover, Kamuro wasn't fortunate enough to have good looks, unlike Hazena who was popular enough among adventurers that some of them secretly formed a fan club for her. Them becoming a couple just didn't seem likely to me. Ever-changing dungeon, that was what adventurers like us have dubbed the dungeon in the wasteland village. Perhaps this dungeon's most distinguishing trait was that the scenery and the atmosphere totally change every 5 floors or so. Because of that, one had to be prepared not only to face different kinds of monsters and traps, but also to be ready for the new environment. For the first floor up to the 5th, the dungeon was a typical cave-type dungeon. The monsters that appeared there were mainly goblins and kobolds, making the area a good hunting ground for novice adventurers. Some of the most popular items to be gathered in the area were the goblins' rusted weapons and the kobolds' fur. The rusted weapons could be melted down and be reused in making new weapons and other metallic items, while the kobold's fur could be used in making clothes. At the 5th floor, there awaited an area boss called the Elder Kobold. Being a higher-ranked kobold, it served as the first major obstacle for many new adventurers. But then again, escaping from the boss and going to the next floor was also an option. Moreover, because it takes about an hour for the area boss to respawn, it was possible to not have to face the boss at all if the prior adventurers did manage to defeat it. HMMP, Guaye. At our level though, an Elder Kobold could be killed instantly. After Guy thwacked it in the head with his staff, it fell to the ground. And when the kill was confirmed, Dill immediately proceeded to use his knife to expertly tear off the Elder Kobold's fur. An Elder Kobold's fur tended to sell for a high price, so we always made sure to bring it back. Kamuro was the one carrying our luggage, so adding a bit more to it didn't affect our combat strength much. After the boss room was a safety zone. In such a place, no monsters would ever appear. And thanks to the simple lodgings there, adventurers could even stay the night. There were also some restaurants here, making it possible to enjoy a good meal even deep into the dungeon. As for us, we simply passed through. We still have far to go today, after all. From the 6th floor up to the 10th, the dungeon still looked like a cavern system, only now it was a lot greener thanks to the moss and other vegetation. Many insect-type monsters inhabited the area, such as the spider-like tyrants and the ant-like armored ants. Unsurprisingly, this area wasn't popular with female adventurers. As for the area's most popular items, it included the materials from the armored ants that could be used in making defensive equipment, as well as a type of honey from the lair of bee-like monsters called mad bees. Medicinal herbs could also be gathered here, but since basic medicinal herbs were being cultivated back in the village's fields in large amounts anyway, no adventurer picked up the herbs here in order to sell them at Novel Bin Adat. This dungeon was set up so that there was an area boss every 5 floors. For the 10th floor, the area boss was the Mother Tyrant, the higher rank version of the Tyrants. The thread that could be obtained from the mother tyrant's gigantic web was extremely durable, so it understandably sells for a high price. However, because it was difficult to collect, we usually don't bother with it. Much like the previous area boss, it was possible to get through the boss room without defeating the mother tyrant. Even better, since it didn't attack unless approached really closely, we simply walked straight ahead. There was another safe zone afterwards. This time, we decided to take a short rest. For the 11th floor up to the 15th, the dungeon began to look like some kind of ruin. It was almost like a labyrinth made of stone, to be honest. There were noticeably more traps in here, but more noteworthy was the frequent appearance of minotaurs. And because minotaur meat remained in high demand, this area was where most adventurers gathered. Serving as the area boss at the 15th floor was a black minotaur. Like its name would suggest, it was a higher rank minotaur. Its meat was also of a higher rank in quality compared to ordinary minotaur meat. However, when factoring in how hard to defeat a black minotaur was, it could be argued that the meat wasn't worth it. As such, there was only a small portion of adventurers that repeatedly hunted the area boss. By the way, it used to be that we could hunt minotaurs in the first couple of floors of the dungeon. However, probably because we hunted down too much of them, we now had to descend a good number of floors just to meet one. Such sudden changes were not at all rare in this dungeon. I did hear that the village chief is close with the dungeon master, so maybe, I don't know, they adjust it based on the current situation. I've never heard of a dungeon that does something like this though. Well, it is the village chief we're talking about here. Indeed, it is the village chief, after all. Bumoo! So went the black minotaur's last cry. For in a rank party like us, even an area boss for the 15th floor didn't pose much threat. It's heavy as always. We carried the defeated black minotaur to the safety zone, but because of its weight and size, we naturally couldn't afford to carry it all the way to the deepest parts of the dungeon. Yes, the usual, please. Thanks for your patronage. Perhaps due to some requests from adventurers, a service was offered in the safe zone, the temporary safekeeping of the items and the materials we had gathered. We didn't even have to dismantle our prey first before handing it to them since they offered to do that for us at Novel Bin at. Furthermore, if we asked for it, they could also transport our belongings back to the village. Thanks to this, some parties dived deeper and deeper into the dungeon and then deposit all their gathered items and materials whenever passing a safe zone. At any rate, now that our load was lighter, we proceeded the 16th floor. Starting from the 16th floor, the environment was once again that of a cavern system. This time though, it was the kind covered in ice. While the scenery was beautiful and almost magical, the fact remains that this place, with its extreme cold and its slippery ground, was deadly to us adventurers. The monsters that frequently appeared here like the white grizzlies and the ice wolves were all quite powerful too. On the other hand, the fur that could be obtained from them were all high-class items. Because of that, many of the more powerful adventurers preferred hunting here rather than hunting the minotaurs. The area boss waiting in the 20th floor was a group of Yeti-sown Big Yeti and about 10 other regular Yetis. Because it was against a group of strong enemies, it understandably wasn't a simple fight for most parties. In fact, even our party had a difficult time on our first encounter with the group. However, we have since mastered how to deal with them and thus no longer consider them especially hard to fight. The key was paying minimal attention to the 10 regular Yetis and focus mostly on the Big Yeti. Once the Big Yeti was down, the cooperation between the others crumbled at once, making the rest of the fight easy. Fire magic was quite effective against the regular Yetis, so we usually had Hazena keep them in check, while the three of us took down the Big Yeti as quickly as we could. Well, they're not worth that much, so let's just leave them be. The Big Yeti defeated, we decided to ignore the rest and move on to the next floor. The Yeti's fur wasn't exceptionally expensive, so it usually wasn't worth the risk or at least, effort to subjugate them. Starting from the 21st floor, the scenery became that of a ruin again. Only this time, it resembled a graveyard. The enemies that appeared around here were mainly undead-type monsters. Not much could be obtained from such monsters though. In exchange though, rare items could often be found in the chests here. This was on top of the fact that there tended to be more chests in ruin-type environments compared to cave-type environments. I can sense a chest that way. Is it near? I think so. Okay, let's get it then. Unsurprisingly, Kamuroho could sense the location of the treasure chests was even more helpful in these areas. That being said, since our party's primary goal was to reach the as of yet unexplored depths of the dungeon, we only picked up those that were on the way. As for the area's boss, it was a high-rank undead called a White. It was naturally a strong enemy, but it was just ill-matched against our party thanks to Guy who could use light magic. Upon defeat, this area boss always dropped an item called Staff of the King of the Dead. That item always sells for an extremely high price, so we made a point of subjugating it even though we had opportunities to slip past it. Starting from the 26th floor, it was a cave-type environment again. Lava was flowing here and there, making us sweat profusely just by standing. It was more than fair enough to say that this was an extremely harsh environment. Actually, this was where we decided to head back last time. Due to the excessive sweating, the water in our bodies had nearly dried out, causing us to feel ill. We were able to deal with the cold from before simply by putting on more clothes, but the heat wasn't so simple to deal with. Thankfully, we had a countermeasure for it this time, the special, deep blue liquid made by the village's alchemist. It was a so-called freeze potion. We took out bottles of it out from our bag of supplies and poured the liquid on our bodies. Now that we have done so, we have obtained a great deal of resistance against fire and heat for a certain amount of time. Whoa, it's so cold. My body it's shivering. It's far more effective than we thought. Just by pouring a liter of freeze potion on our bodies, it felt like we were continuously submerged in ice water. And like that, we went further into this lave-filled place. Luke, please advise me on how to design the next area? Sure. But, don't you have, like, 35 floors right now? Today, I went to visit Ari, the dungeon master. Yup. Thanks to you, my place has gotten quite impressive. Her dungeon only had 2 floors when we first discovered it, but it has since expanded so much at Novel Bin at. For a dungeon to develop, things called dungeon points were needed. These were awarded after each visitor to her dungeon has spent a certain amount of time within it. In addition to the dwarves living here, there have also been a great number of adventurers delving into the dungeon, so dungeon points were flowing in steadily. And recently, people have been entering the dungeon just to sightsee, essentially turning it into a tourist attraction. Somebody already cleared the 30th floor though. The 26th up to 30th floor of her dungeon was cave-type area that was scorching hot due to the lava flowing within it. Because of that harsh environment, it was hard if not impossible to clear it without some kind of countermeasure. Was it Alexand's party? I've heard they've asked the village alchemist to make them some freeze potions. If someone poured freeze potion onto their body, they would become highly resistant to fire and heat for a certain length of time. It was useful not just against such a harsh environment, but also against monsters who made use of fire tribute attacks. That item was actually the reason I advised Ari to make this area like this. I liked the thought that the solution to such a harsh place lied in the information and items that could be obtained in the village. Speaking of, yes, I have been helping Ari with her dungeon. It felt kind of like running a game. It was fun. As an aside, the most recent area of her dungeon 31st up to the 35th floor, more specifically was a pitch-black labyrinth. Unless adventurers secured a source of light that could last them through, they would find it nigh impossible to break through. So, for the next area, I've been thinking of making it full of traps that apply all sorts of abnormal status conditions. They'll get afflicted with something every step they take. Like that, they won't be able to make it through, right? Well, that kind of gimmick is usually disliked though. Then, what about a cave-type area where the passages are so narrow, no human-sized person will be able to crawl through? Absolutely no one will like that kind of dungeon, you know. Unfortunately, Ari the dungeon master's dungeon sense was the worst. If left to her own devices, she would fill her dungeon from start to finish with traps. Focusing on defense was one thing, but foregoing all sense of game balance would make the adventurers lose interest. Wait, why am I speaking like it really is a game? But then again, adventurers who have delved that deep in the dungeon were doing it more for the satisfaction rather than for profit, so a challenge that was a little bit outrageous was still acceptable. How about a cave system that's submerged in water at certain parts? Adventurers will have to swim under to get through or to get treasure chests. That sounds fun? Or how about a ruin where stepping on certain floors will make them uncontrollably move in a certain direction? If they don't figure out the exact route to the exit, they might end up at the beginning. That sounds like a headache. Or how about this, the entire floor is one vast and wall-less landscape, and the stairway to the next level is visible right from the entrance, but in exchange for all that, the adventurers have to face a horde of monsters all at once. I haven't thought of that before. In the end, Ari decided to make the 36th up to the 40th floor be a cave-type environment that had certain portions submerged in water. Can you make aquatic monsters? Of course. Fish-type and crab-like monsters could come in handy in terms of being sources of marine products, a commodity that wasn't available in the village as of yet. Of course, transporting them out of the dungeon would be a pain, but it wasn't like there would be a whole lot to transport anyway. As for clearing the area, finding a way to extend the time they could hold their breath underwater would be useful for the adventurers, but I wouldn't say that it would be absolutely necessary. Rather, the thing they might need to worry about more was how to deal with their wet equipment. Unlike in a game, letting an equipment stay wet would have an adverse effect on their stamina. I guess a crab monster would make for a good boss. Their hard shells will make physical attacks against them terribly less effective, right? Just like that, Ari and I discussed the finer details like each floor's map layout, monster types and placement, trap types and their placement as well, and many other things. I heard a certain rumor recently. There was apparently a new city built in the wasteland located in the north of the Albert territory. Moreover, they say that place had a nearby dungeon where novice and veteran adventurers alike could reliably earn a good amount of money. And as if that wasn't amazing enough, they also say that there were safe zones within the dungeons, making prolonged dungeon exploration a lot more manageable. The city itself sounded amazing for adventurers. Firstly, there seemed to be lodgings exclusively for us. In addition, high-quality equipment made by dwarves and potent potions made by elves were apparently for sale there at a very reasonable price. Too reasonable, if what I heard was right. For those reasons, it was no wonder that adventurers were rushing toward the place. I'm sure it's all nonsense. It's just too good to be true. I didn't believe any bit of that rumor when I first heard it and laughed alongside those around me. In the first place, there was just no way a city like those in the rumors could ever be built in that wasteland. All that being said, my curiosity as an adventurer won in the end. I can't believe ID's real at novel bin at. Firstly, I couldn't believe I had reached the place in such a short time despite the fact that I didn't walk any faster than usual. And when I saw the city in the rumors, I was dumbfounded further. By the walls that could rival those in the royal capital, by the large buildings lined up, by the crowds of people going to and from the city. And all of those things were in a wasteland where no vegetation could grow. Before checking out anything else, I headed toward the dungeon area within the city. Apparently, the lodgings that were exclusively for adventurers were just a few steps away from the dungeon itself. And near those buildings were the Adventurers Guild, one and only in this country, as well as a training ground. I decided to take a peek at the training ground. There, I saw people who looked like fellow adventurers practicing with some swords. Oh, they're quite skilled, aren't they? Skilled and talented adventurers seem to have gathered in this city. Well, they do say successful adventurers are those who don't let their initial impressions cloud their judgment. Even if the information is unbelievable, like the one this time, they'll verify the truth with their own keen eyes. Evidently, I was among those people. While I reveled at that fact, someone called out to me. Hey, I don't think I've seen your mug around here before. Yeah, I've just arrived. So that's WHYY. You're gonna love it here. It's fantastic. His slightly slurred way of talking was quite noticeable, but just as noticeable was his well-trained body. He seemed to be a swordsman, judging from the sword on his waist. If you don't mind, how about we spar? You want to spar with me? Sure. All that traveling has put me in the mood to swing my sword. Oh, great, thanks. I'm still learning, yes. Despite his assertiveness, the man before me was quite modest. However, this put me in a little bit of a bind. I had learned my swordsmanship from a well-known swordsman, and I've never missed a day of practice ever since. I was quite proud of myself for having a sword style different from other adventurers. If the man before me was indeed a beginner, well, fighting him seriously would be unfair, to put it lightly. Okay, then let me teach you a thing or two. Come at me however you want. HAAG, good job. Let's end it here today. I was breathing hard and was barely able to say those words. That's still learning? You've got to be kidding. You're so strong already. We were about even. About halfway through, I began to take it seriously. However, never mind winning, I could have easily lost if I got careless for just a moment. I had made a fool of myself when I said let me teach you a thing or two. Man, I shouldn't have made light of you. This is where strong adventurers like you have gathered, after all. Now I know that if I assume this place is like the other cities I've been to, I'm in for a world of hurt. Adventurers like me? What's wrong? You're an elite adventurer, right? Come on man, that's not funny. Stop talking like you're not a big shot adventurer. Despite being uncomfortable with the other person's reaction, I decided to shrug it off. In the next moment though, I realized the misunderstanding I made. No, I'm not an adventurer, no, I'm normally a farmer. I've learned how to use the sword just recently. Training ground, a facility for the practicing of magic and martial arts. Increases one's improvement rate. It also has a feature that prevents injuries. Say, haven't all of you gotten so, I don't know, muscular lately? When I went to one of the village's public bathhouses, I noticed everyone's improved physique. I had a bath at home, of course, but I come here from time to time to interact with the villagers. Hiya, I don't think so, Chief. We're what we've always been. Yup. Nope, no matter I look at it, you've all gotten so muscular. I mean, your arms are as thick as thighs now. I had no idea why the villagers were denying it, but it was as clear as day that they have bulked up. Their chest looked like they were about to burst, their backs were like a mountain range, and their thighs almost seemed armored. Moreover, it wasn't just a few people, it was all of them that became hardcore macho men. It was like I got lost and ended up in a bodybuilders convention or something at novel bin at. It makes sense if you were in the hunting group or if you were an adventurer, but why would your regular jobs make you look like that? I mean, look at Belrith-san, there's no way his body looked like that before, right? Unlike his younger brother, Balrith-san, who had the sword techniques gift and trained regularly, Belrith-san's regular job didn't require much muscle. Well, truth be told, I have been doing a little bit of training. I don't think a little bit of training will get that level of result though. Wondering how that happened, I pressed my serious face close to Belrith-san. And then, it looked like he just had an idea. I think we have the facility you made to thank. The facility I made? Yes. I think the reason why ordinary villagers like me have become so muscular is that we've been doing exercises in the training grounds. The training grounds? Training ground, a facility for the practicing of magic and martial arts. Increases one's improvement rate. It also has a feature that prevents injuries. I myself thought it was only for the hunters, the guards, and the adventurers, but a person one day decided to sneak in and train there. After a short while, his physique became impressive. Other men then became aware of it and began training in their spare time. Before we knew it, we all became muscular. Some of us even began learning how to use the sword and the spear, with some being able to stand their ground against adventurers who have just arrived in the village. Undoubtedly, this phenomenon was because of the training grounds increases one's improvement rate effect. Oh, that's it, yes? I unintentionally shouted so when an idea came to me. I seemed to be destined to be eternally childlike and unable to grow taller. Those around me often say so cute, but I would rather they say to me so cool. I want to be macho just like you all, so I'm going to exercise in the training ground too. Alright, there's no time to waste. I'm going to grab. Belrith-san, why did you grab my arm? Can you let go? I'm getting out. Chief, deepest apologies but I can't let you go. Why? Because being all macho doesn't suit you, Chief. I agree. It's best you stay the way you are right now, Chief. Yup, absolutely never train. The thought of the Chief becoming all muscular, it's unbearable. Please leave all the muscles to us. It wasn't just Belrith-san who asked me to stay, the other macho men quickly followed suit. It's not a matter of whether it suits me or not, okay? I've decided to do this, so please, let me go. I tried to free myself from Belrith-san's hold, but he was too strong for me. Furthermore, the other macho men stood in a line in front of me, forming a wall of muscles. It was impossible for the muscle-less me to escape. Grrf fine, if you're asking for it that much, I'll stop. Thus, I abandoned my plans of becoming a macho man myself. Or so I wanted them to believe. There was no way I was going to give up that easily. Okay, before anyone finds out, I'll go sneak into the training ground. I thought so, but... Is something the matter, Village Chief? Village Chief, you can't possibly have any business here, right? Good morning, Chief. Every time I went to the training ground, a macho man would always be there and stop me. I'd like to get in. Ha ha ha, what nice weather we're having. I see, talking's no use. In the end, no matter the time of day, I was not able to get in. Got that, everyone? Under no circumstance should we let Luke-sama enter the training ground. Let us all work together and preserve Luke-sama's young boy figure. Yes? The believers of the Luke faithful by Miliaura thwarting all of Luke's efforts to become muscular. And this world, children were considered a valuable part of the workforce. However, our village had more than enough of a workforce that children didn't have to pitch in as well. Given that, I decided to build a school where they could study for the sake of their future. School, a facility for educating children. Improves the teacher's teaching abilities as well as the students' learning abilities. For now, it was a 6-year program for children ages 5 to 10. In addition to teaching how to read, how to do basic arithmetic, and history, we would also be teaching the children about this world's gifts, magic, skills, monsters, and monster-infested areas at Novel Bin at. We would of course be adding more topics later on, such as hygiene and physical education. As for who were going to be the teachers, they would be selected from the villagers based on their gifts as well as their suitable occupations as determined by my villager appraisal. Luke-sama, I believe we must also teach theology and worship. Milia, the village's one and only priest, proposed so. Now that I think about, I do feel like religion-related topics were also taught in school in my previous life. But who's gonna teach it? Please leave it to me. As the village's priest, it is my duty to guide the children in such matters. Okay, but are you sure? I mean, you're already doing the worship meetings, right? Oh, there's no need to worry. I won't run out of things to talk about anytime soon. After all, few funno I can brainware, give them special education while they're young. By the way, no particular day of the week was ever set for the village's day of worship, so the day she would teach at the school and the day she would hold the village's worship meetings could be freely moved around. Afterwards, I also built a library and an art museum in the village. Library, a facility where books and documents are collected, stored, and also lent to people. Prevents the deterioration of books and documents. Improves the villagers' acquisition of knowledge. Art gallery, a facility for preserving and also exhibiting works of art. Prevents the deterioration of artworks. Has security features. Improves the villagers' artistic sensibilities. In this country where war has become commonplace, it wasn't rare for books and artworks to be destroyed or simply neglected. Those who immigrate to this village would sometimes bring with them such items, so I figured we should buy as many as we could and preserve them. On a certain day, a group of women arrived in the village. Some were in the latter half of their teens, while some were in their 20s. All of them had rather thick makeup and strong perfume. A pleasure to meet you, village chief. I'm Fana. Their representative, a voluptuous woman in her mid-20s, introduced herself so. We actually have a request for you. Airquist? Yes. You see, all of us previously worked as prostitutes back home. However, circumstances have forced us to leave our home city behind and go to this new land. We were hoping that there would be a demand for us here in this new, rapidly growing city of yours. I had no clue what happened to them, but if what I heard was true that prostitutes usually had poor work environments, they probably decided to take a chance in the village when they heard of us in the rumors. Yes, of course, I'll direct you all to proper jobs. Proper jobs? Yes. For example, there is currently a good demand for women in the clothing atelier and the restaurants. Due to the childbirth boom right now, there have been a lack of manpower lately, meaning a lot of jobs up for offer. I could appraise this group later on and tell them which jobs they should first try based on their aptitudes and potential gifts. Does the village chief perhaps think that prostitution is an improper job? I gasped when she pointed out something unexpected. Well, no. Of course, I admit that it isn't a job that one would usually openly boast about. Many in this line of work do it out of necessity and would probably prefer a normal, respectable job. A proper job, as some would put it. However, there are those among us who do take pride in our job. Her words were incredibly thought-provoking. I realized that I did have a prejudice against prostitution. Well, let's just say that for women who loves doing the deed by an extraordinary amount, this profession is a true calling. All this talk's making me want to put a man's thing inside me as soon as possible? There are some things better off unsaid, you know? Like that, I reluctantly decided to build a brothel for them. Brothel, a facility for sexual services, has contraceptive effects. Has an effect that prevents the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases. Phew, say, you don't look like you've known a woman's touch, Mr. Village Chief. I will gladly take your first high. Fana-san, who was staring intently at me, suddenly became ghastly pale for some reason. Forget what I said just now. After saying so, she left as though she was running away. I looked behind me to see if there was anything that could cause Fana-san to be like that, but all I saw there was Milia with her usual, gentle smile. I wonder what happened. Amazing work, doctor. I don't feel any pain anymore. Thank you very much. A patient who was suffering from stomach pains was now completely fine. After seeing that patient off, the young man named Muon smiled wry. I don't think my healing was that effective. Muon was known to be the only healing magic user in a certain small town located in the northern Albert territory. Despite studying healing magic at a school that specialized in it, he had always been lackluster at it. The most he could after 3 years of hard study was relieve some pain. It wouldn't surprise him if somebody told him that he was able to graduate only because of pity. Nevertheless, people who could use healing magic were exceedingly rare. So, even though he treated his patients mostly through regular medicine instead of magic like he was advertising, he was earning a living. However, about a month ago, something strange happened. His healing magic suddenly had greater potency. I can't think of anything that'll cause this improvement to my magic, but thinking of the timing, wasn't it around the time that I moved into this building? A month prior, he relocated his clinic to a new building. This new building was apparently built by the chief of the wasteland village that was always in the rumors lately. It should go without saying that the chief employed the help of carpenters, but if the rumors were to be believed, this building and the others like it appeared in the blink of an eye. Moreover, none of the town's carpenters were said to have been involved in the construction of any of the new buildings. The moment I entered the clinic recently, I feel this mysterious power, but no, what am I saying? There's no way a building can have an effect like that. When he remarked so, a person from the town suddenly rushed into the clinic. Doctor, Sir Bal's been attacked by a monster? He's seriously wounded? The others are on their way to bring him here. What? This Bal was one of the town's guards. As such, he helped to maintain the town's order and security by dealing with monsters that appeared nearby, arresting criminals, and many other things. After a while, a man covered in blood was carried into the clinic by a group of guards. What happened? He was attacked by an Almiraj variant? He thought it was an ordinary one and got careless. Bal had a serious puncture wound in his stomach. In all likelihood, an Almiraj's sharp horn was to blame. After Bal was set down, Muon immediately used his healing magic. Despite his improved capabilities though, he could not close the wound. It was simply too severe for that. If anything, at this point, it was a wonder that Bal was still alive. Just when Muon was about to admit that there couldn't be anything done, he remembered something. That I'm sure, it's here, somewhere. He then hurriedly searched his cupboards. After a little while, he took out a vial that had a mysterious liquid inside. The potion's legendary medicine. For some reason, this was in this clinic when I first arrived. If this is the real thing, then Muon haven't tried the liquid before, so he was unsure if it really was a potion. However, if he wanted to save the gravely injured man before him, he had no other choice than to risk it. And so, he opened the vial's lid and made the patient drink it down. The effects were dramatic. It wasn't just that the bleeding stopped right away, the whole puncture wound was closing. Not even the healing magic that Muon's teachers used could ever produce such effect. Unbelievable. Thanks to the potion, the guard's life was saved. And just a few days later, the guard made a full recovery. So, it really was a potion, but why would such a valuable thing be in a small town like this, at Novel Bin Adat? Muon couldn't even begin to imagine what price a medicine as potent as that could have. And yet, there were 2 of it left. Whoever left it in the clinic should have a connection to that rumored wasteland village, Muon thought. And so, to ascertain things, he has decided to journey there. But when he arrived, rather than a village, he found a metropolis. And shocking him more was, potions are sold here like common items? My name is Leonius. I previously was the patriarch of an elven hamlet, but right now, I was simply a villager in what used to be a wasteland. That might sound like my fate turned for the worse, but life here was actually so much more comfortable. Most of the humans here were quite friendly too at Novel Bin Adat. It took no time at all for me and my brethren to get familiar with our new lives. Upon Luxama the village chief's request, we were producing potions medicine whose formula we elves have been passing from generation to generation as much as we could. Prior to coming to this village, we needed to put in an awful lot of time and effort to concoct a single potion. The bottleneck to the whole procedure was the procurement of the necessary medicinal herbs. Some of the ingredients grew so rarely, even in the forest. We, of course, had tried to cultivate it over and over again, but our efforts ended in failure. Now that we live in this village though, we could easily produce so many potions in a short amount of time. Unlike before, the herbs were growing in the village's fields in large quantities. To be honest, the sight of those herbs in the fields made me almost soil myself. Moreover, the time it takes us to concoct the potions was significantly shortened. At least, it seemed so while working within the so-called workshops built by the village chief. Merchants were coming by one after another to buy the potions that we made. Our potions were also sold at the village's apothecary, and was greatly valued by adventurers and travelers. Potions are sold here like common items? In their surprise, a visitor shouted so. The visitor was a young human man. It seemed like what surprised him was the price and the availability of the potions. We actually were making two kinds of potions at the moment. The first kind was what we usually made. The other kind, what we referred to as the high potions, was significantly more potent than the regular ones. Unlike the regular potions, the high potions could cure the severely wounded. The knowledge on how to make high potions was passed down to only a few in our hamlet, and for many years, it had been impossible for us to make one. After coming to this village though, we've secured the means to make it again. That being said, it was currently still hard for us to mass produce the high potions. Due to that, we decided not to have those for sale. Hopefully, our research would change the situation one day. Speaking of research, we were also working with the village's alchemists and doctors to develop another kind of potion. While the regular potions and the high potions could treat wounds quickly, they had no effect at all against illnesses, poisons, and other abnormal status conditions. So, the new potion being developed, had we decided to call it Cure Potion, would focus on curing those things. Once completed, this should be able to help old people like me live a little bit longer. We have already succeeded in producing a potion with such effects. All that remained now was increasing its potency. What's going on? Why is there so much noise from the workshop today? I thought so when I was near the potion-making workshop. Unlike the usual where everyone was quietly devoting themselves in research as well as in making the potions, the atmosphere within the workshop was completely different. Leonistano? We have a situation? What is it? It's 4 now, follow me this way. I was brought to a place where they were keeping a certain liquid within a vial. The liquid was glowing a faint light. I don't think I've seen that liquid before. Is that a potion? While doing an experiment for the cure potion, we unintentionally made this one. Please observe the mouse. What? The elf acting as a lead researcher opened the vial and then poured some of the liquid over to a mouse we were using for our experiments. The mouse had its tail was cut off at the base, but as soon as the liquid touched the mouse, we could see before our eyes the tail growing back. It can grow lost limbs? But that sort of thing can only know, it can't bite that? Yes. We've managed to create the miraculous medicine of Legends and Elixir. Luke Dano, what is it? Leonia-san, why are you so flustered? To the workshop? Please come with me to the workshop. That day, I was asked to come by the workshop where the elves worked. Workshop, a workplace that can be used for things like fine arts, industrial arts, blacksmithing, and dressmaking. Improves one's creativity as well as one's skills. There were various workshops in the village, but this one was mainly for the making of potions. Originally, potions could be produced only in limited amounts. However, once we succeeded in cultivating the herbs needed in the recipe, the village became able to mass produce potions. There was even a more potent kind of potion called the high potion. More kinds were being developed too. Please take a look at this. Leonia-san said so and then poured a mysterious, slightly glowing liquid over a tailless lab mouse. Weighty grew. Potions and high potions were powerful, but even those things couldn't regrow lost appendages and such. And yet, the mouse now had its tail back. I can't believe a potion can do such a thing. It can't. This thing here is that legendary medicine, the elixir? Elixir? Details were unclear due to it being a legend, but an elixir was supposed to be this miraculous medicine that could regrow lost body parts, cure illnesses, remedy inborn disabilities, and, if drunk, it can even make a person 50 years younger. On closer inspection, the lab mouse didn't just have its tail grow back, its coat of fur became so much better than before. After having it appraised, I've been told that this definitely is that elixir. Even among our ancestors, it was believed that only those who held special power, those we called high elves, could make such a thing. Gets real, and yet I still can't believe we were able to make it. Overcome with emotion, Leonia-san said so. He then informed me that even though the elixir was an accidental result from their development efforts in making new types of potions, they have successfully identified the precise method for making it. In other words, they should be able to make more later. However, due to the amount of materials necessary, it's not possible to mass produce them at the moment. Also, I would rather make it only when requested rather than beforehand. If it gets known that we could make such a thing here in this village, there would be a commotion. It was said that in the past, noble and royal families from all over the world wanted to have an elixir so much, they ended up waging war against each other. And all that for what turned out to be a fake elixir. The elixir has such a stigma at novel bin at. Yes, let's keep this between us. Later on, Leonia-san asked me to come to their workshop again. They showed me the new potions they have developed. Just by drinking this muscle potion, one can temporarily increase their strength tenfold. Please observe. Even a normally powerless elf like me can do something like this. Leonia-san said so and then slammed his fist downward. With a thunderous roar, the ground became cracked. Huh? While I was still stunned like that, Leonia-san brought out another new potion. Hey, race another one? If you drink this one, it's your intelligence this time that will become tenfold. He drank that potion and then added 25-digit numbers together in under 5 seconds. It's 795, 165. See correct. Contrary to what his position as the elves' patriarch might suggest, Leonia-san was well, he wasn't exactly the brightest of the bunch. So, for him to calculate the answer so quickly, And if you drink this erection potion, your endurance will become tenfold. What's with that name? Also, please don't drink that and show me its effects, alright? If it is done in the village's hotel, even us elves who have low reproductive ability can conceive right away. In fact, my wife who hasn't been pregnant in over 50 years is with child right now. Congratulations. Philia-san was apparently about to have a new sibling. We also have potions that deters monsters from coming any closer, potions that completely erases one's presence, potions that makes one's body as flexible as a mollusk, potions that eliminates foul odor. Hold on, I interrupted the excited Lianyu-san. Just how many have you guys developed? At least 30. At least 30? Why don't you guys take it easy for a bit?